TNA is the best wrestling in the whole world.
You've never seen anything like this on Spike TV.
The quantity of speech is not always indicative of the quality of thought.
I'm Captain Charisma, you silly bastard!
This is wrong. You got robbed. You got robbed. You got robbed.
You've been painting in an unventilated room. Maybe you need to go back to rehab.
Come on. Now that wasn't necessary.
This is BS! This sucks! I've lost my objectivity and I don't give a damn!
Welcome everybody to You've Got to Be Kidding Me episode number 44. We are a TNA history podcast that covers TNA 1 month at a time. On this episode we're talking about the month that is January 2006 leading up until Final Resolution 2006. I'm Garrett Kidney and I am joined by Liam Jones.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Wow. So let's head right into...
I guess we should start that if you listen to the watch along, you heard the slow decline of Liam's health over 3 hours. It was a good time. Mm-hmm. If you would like to hear Liam physically suffer rather than the usual emotional suffering, that's usually tied to watching these full shows, but physically suffer over the course of 3 hours, TNAchat.com. You might as well give him some money for his physical pain.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been better if my appendix had exploded and I died or something, because then it would have been some real morbid curiosity around it. But unfortunately, despite doctors literally telling me my appendix was exploding, it did not.
So you're feeling fine now?
I feel, physically. The same mental anguish is there as always, but physically it's fine.
Well, that's good at least. Do they have... It was just a muscle strain or something, was it?
I was apparently severely dehydrated. Severely hydrated would be crazy. Yeah, they think I might have torn something in my abdomen. And just those two things probably correlating in some way.
Let it be noted that before we recorded, I told Liam to get something to drink. He's like, nah, I'll get it halfway through so I can spend some time leaving TNA for a minute.
And I stand by that and I do it again.
So I'm a good podcast co-host who looks out for the hydration levels of my co-host.
You also said I could stop doing it, and I was like, no.
You were like, I will insist on carrying this goddamn watch along right through to the end.
Even if it kills me.
So other than that, is anything going on with you?
It is almost Christmas time. Jingle bell, jingle bell.
Yeah, a single jingle bell.
Why?
You said jingle bell, you didn't say bells.
It is Jingle Bell Rock, not Jingle Bells Rock.
Oh, I thought you were doing jingle bells. Because you only did the jingle bell part.
I don't have a whole setup behind me to record the song in its entirety, I'm sorry.
Your room is too echoey?
No, it's actually quite good for that. But I just don't have a...
musical accompaniment?
Band. No, yeah, exactly.
What if I told you I have a band right here?
Hit it! 3, 2, 1...
Who needs a real band when you have your mouth?
That's what I've always said.
Why do we bother with instruments when you can just make noises with your mouth?
Garrett standing hard for the beatboxing community right now.
Damn right. Or making instruments on computer programs.
Yeah, boo. Who needs that? Who needs all of it?
Who needs people who have committed years to learning their craft and every inch of an instrument when you can just hit some keys on a keyboard and it goes blah violin?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some way I can cancel musicians.
All of them.
Can I say it's classist?
Yeah, some of those instruments are thousands of euro.
It's anti-communal to learn an instrument as a trade because then you're not actually contributing to your society.
Yeah, and you're just excluding those who can't afford an instrument.
Yeah, it's inherent classism too.
Fucking musicians.
That's what we're gonna stand by. The anti-music podcast. Please listen to our Music of the Mat appearances.
I was about to say, this is why we hate Andrew Rich.
We're at war.
We're trying to take him down. His deep critical analysis. I've only been on that show, I think, more than anybody else. Or at least I'm top 2. But
I think he's been on more.
That's true, and he has had co-hosts for a while who have probably been on more. I think I've been on that show 7 times.
It's too many.
It is a lot.
Gotta hit double digits, though. Then you get a minority stake in all earnings.
Is that how podcasts work? You get on 10 and they have to give you money?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
You see, I will do any podcast guest appearance, though. If people ask me, I'm like, yeah, sure.
Even if it's completely unrelated to anything in your purview?
Yeah, because it panders to my ego that people think I'm interesting enough to be a podcast guest host, which I'm not. I don't know where they get that impression from, but they're like, ooh, let's invite Garrett on.
They just need another accent.
That's true, I sound exotic.
Yeah, we have to get the Irish contingency.
I don't even have a particularly strong Irish accent, but they're still like, hey, he sounds different.
I feel like your Irish accent has diminished slightly since I first met you.
Really? So what do I sound like now?
I don't know.
I don't know what I sound like either. I sound like some neutral Atlantic.
The way you said it then, it sounded like American. I don't even know what I sound like either.
Yeah, becoming an anime character.
Yeah, you're becoming an anime voice dub.
Yeah.
Ironic, considering the only anime you've ever watched has been in sub.
Yeah, I watch it in Japanese. I admire the purity of the original source material.
A true connoisseur.
Even though I do not stand by that principle in any other regard. I'm like, fuck it, I'll watch any adaptation. I don't care about the purity of the original source material. But Naruto, that's important.
Yeah, well, you gotta respect it. Garrett, give me your top 3 films of the year.
Oh god, I have watched nothing but like a parade of muck in 2023. I have not watched any like good movies.
That's good to hear.
There's probably, I think one is probably Oppenheimer.
Lame.
The Menu was technically last year, wasn't it?
Yes.
Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. And because even though I rated it higher than other movies, I just don't want to say the word Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I just don't. I can't. So I'm just going to say Wonka. I had a great time at Wonka.
Very good.
Because I saw Wonka recently. And it's that thing, like, because it's directed by Paul King, who directed Paddington and Paddington 2. And Paddington 2 is one of the best movies ever made.
Guy who has only seen Paddington. This has big Paddington energy.
Which it does have big Paddington energy. It has the same thing Paddington has, in that all the good characters are the most, like, cartoonishly kind people imaginable. And all the evil characters are, like, the most cartoonishly horrible people imaginable. So you get people playing, like, both ends of that spectrum in a great, fun way. Especially, like, the evil people who get to do, like, full mustache twirling. I'm an evil priest who oversees a chocolate cartel. Or protects a chocolate cartel, I guess. And that's just fun. You just watch people have fun. And then you have fun. And then everyone else is nice and they sing songs. And everyone has a nice time.
With modded controller 20 or whatever the fuck his name was on YouTube as the lead.
Isn't it funny that there's just a world where that dude is a YouTuber?
Well, yeah, most kids his age were.
Where that shit caught on and he's not like a world famous actor. He's just a guy who produces YouTube videos.
He's a streamer.
He contributes nothing to the culture.
Once again, classist.
I've been thinking about that recently, about like how much do streamers contribute to the culture? Because like there's something about streams that is inherently transitory.
Yeah.
You know, the streams are meant to be consumed in the moment. Not that they can't be consumed in VOD, but like the whole point of them is that they're live and interactive. So like most of that culture is only best consumed while the person is live. And like how much of that is going to still exist in 10 years? You know, how many people are still going to be going back to watch like their favorite ninja stream from 2017 years into the future?
Especially like for someone who makes content like that, which I assume is just very much in the moment. Because like there are like some streamers who will be like, we are let's play streamers or whatever, and you're like, I might want to go back and watch them play the specific game or something.
Yeah.
Or if they're like an IRL stream, you're like, I want to see this specific moment. But it's like, I guess that's why, at least it feels, that a lot of streamers have moved their content from being just like someone who plays one particular thing to being like, we have shows and skits and plans for things that we stream now. It's basically like independent TV now.
Yeah, and then ultimately you end up creating something that might actually stand the test of time, as opposed to, as you said, like, if you're a guy who streams Fortnite, who gives a fuck about your, 221st of 300 Fortnite streams this year, you know?
Yeah, like, you eventually become big enough to just be a content creator, I guess.
It's just weird to think that like some of the most famous people in the world for making things are making things that have no long-term value, like nothing that people will go back to. Like that's not to say there is no value in streaming. It's just weird to think like, the holding value of the material they make is practically non-existent a lot of the time. It's just exists in the moment and fades away.
I mean, I think more than any other content, it's probably the most parasocial too. And because there's interaction with streamer man, and they are your streamer man, and I use that in the gender neutral sense, like you feel as if they are a friend or something, and it's like when you click on their daily stream, you're not watching a piece of content, you are interacting with your friend.
On the topic of parasocial relationships, if you would like to support the show, you can head to tnachat.com or patreon.com/kiddingme, where you can support us on multiple tiers and get lots and lots of content, including watch-alongs, including secondary shows, including star ratings. We'll be doing the end-of-year stuff for 2005 after this episode comes out. So lots of stuff at tnachat.com, patreon.com/kiddingme. I appreciate everybody who's stuck with us over the last couple months. I'm sure if you followed me on Twitter, you probably would have seen that my dad passed away at the start of December, so doing podcasts has not been at the forefront of my mind, but I appreciate everyone's condolences and everyone's support in the last few months, and for as much as it is worth dedicating an episode of this dopey podcast to my dad, I would nonetheless like to do it.
I'm sure it's what he would have won.
Yeah, he definitely would have listened to it.
I'm a staunch supporter, I imagine.
He did get a kick out of the idea that people would pay money to support us on Patreon, but he didn't actually listen to an episode of the show.
All of our parents think it's fun that we make money out of it in some manner.
We do silly podcasts, and people are very kind enough to give us a little bit of money.
If we were smart, we'd be streaming it.
But then we would have no long-term value.
But we would be making specific content. We would have skipped ahead from the content with no long-term value to the content that is evergreen.
That's a good point.
Mind blown.
So that brings us to the news. A lot of people are under the assumption that TNA Wrestling is now a company turning a profit.
My God.
But according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer, that isn't the case.
That seems more accurate.
The losses are not at the level of the $1 million per month that they were bleeding for most of this year before the Spike deal, but the fact that the Carters were trying to negotiate a partial sale of stock to a silent partner, which hasn't happened, to raise $12 million of new capital for future expected losses, tells you not only are they still losing money, but they expect to continue to operate in the red for some time. So TNA, you might be thinking, they got on Spike, everything's fine. They're not quite making being on TV money. It is interesting because there was the story a couple of weeks ago because WrestleNomics kind of tried to work out AEW's finances, and I think Brandon came to the conclusion, based on a decent number of assumptions, which he goes through in the WrestleNomics article, that they were losing about 30 million still. And it is funny to think, I think TNA lost 20 million over the first 3 years, and everyone was like, failed company, how could they exist like this? It's terrible. It is interesting to see how stuff like that flips, because basically they operated on more or less the same business model. AEW were a lot bigger, a lot faster, but they kind of had the exact same principle in that we are willing to burn money in the first few years in order to get that big TV deal that will make us sustainable in the long run.
How much did you say that TNA lost in their first year?
I think Dave said something to the extent of 20 million over the first 3 years.
So 35 million today.
Yeah. So
about 1 year of AEW.
it is it's just one of those things. It's it did work out for TNA, and then they started blowing even more money and stopped making money, because there is a period in, I think, 2008, 2009 where it is generally accepted TNA was a company that turned a profit for a little while until they started blowing money on Hogan and blowing money on going on the road.
Listen, I can relate to that. No money and then suddenly get paid and it's oh, time to spend it all.
Yeah, blow it all on Hulk Hogan, brother.
Hell yeah.
But that's where AEW kind of sit right now, where they're looking at their upcoming TV deal, being this is the one that takes us from the red to the black. This is the one we've kind of worked for over the first 4 or 5 years of our existence, that we were willing to burn that money because we knew if we established ourselves in the marketplace and established ourselves as a television ratings draw, this is the money that would be there for us at the end. And
then Punk was like, let me lower that significantly.
Blow it up and take it all to WWE.
I wonder if like how much of that is like WWE's like thought process. They're like, well, we can kill our biggest competitor by just being like, here, want us? And I don't mean kill, but I mean like we can. The thing that they have been waiting for years. We can significantly cut into it or altogether remove it as they have to go look somewhere else.
Which is an act of pettiness that is very fun. WWE have been like really pettily like anti-competitive. And I know like, wow, WWE, a company that tries to take down their competitors, that's very unlike them. But like they're still going in on AEW, which is quite funny.
Well, that's what they do. But
because like they
they're not
won.
at war.
They won. like they lost the Wednesday Night Wars, but it's the classic. Like I think even Triple H said it in his very first statement about AEW beating them. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And like they did win. Like there is a moment in 2021 where the two companies came not close to each other, but like AEW was on the up and WWE was on the down, and then AEW started going down, WC started going back up again, and they won.
Yeah. Well, they're winning.
Well, yeah, and there's like, yeah, while we have this advantage, we have to leverage it for everything it's worth against the All Elite Wrestling.
It's just, I don't know. It's not so gloom and doom because like when you really break it down to it, like Tony Khan will run that company until he no longer wants to run it, no matter what.
Because at its core, no matter how much it is not or is a sustainable business, it's still a vanity project.
As it should be.
Like, as all pro wrestling should be. As our president Hiroshi Tanahashi should make New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, as soon as pro wrestling stops being a vanity project is when it stops being good.
And people are trying to cynically make money, and then you get what WWE's television is these days.
Exactly. A soulless, heatless mess.
I watched some of SmackDown last night because I wanted to subtweet the Santos Escobar against Lashley match because it happened in TNA. And
of course.
God, it's just one of those things where you're like, I really don't get how people watch this thing.
I think they're just accustomed.
Yeah, and it's not even like the content of the programming, which I think is largely okay. Like if you took that, like the wrestling that happened, the actual content, and put it somewhere else that wasn't insane.
It's just everything about its presentation, from its fans to its commentary to its look, that is just immediately off-putting.
Yeah, because the crowds are dead, and then you hear the whir of the crowd noise, which is worse than it's ever been, by the way. Good lord, was it terrible during SmackDown. It's like one of those things where it's like, you used to mock it in like 2005. There was like the Funaki comes out and gets the world's biggest pop, and you'd be like, stupid. But like, you listen to it now, and it's somehow worse. And then, as you said, like all the production elements and the cuts and the weird, blinding, bright light that just engulfs everything that's on their television.
It's just way too corporate, and for an industry that just isn't made to be corporate.
Yeah, it's a rebellious spirit at heart.
It's a carny, rebellious pseudo art that doesn't get respect from anyone, and that's how it should remain.
Dave continues, also, if the company is turning a profit, they would not have been recently negotiating a complete sale to Morphoplex, which is honestly a premise I kind of reject.
Yeah, there's never been a successful company that has sold.
Yeah, if anything, you might make the argument that, like, they're like, we're closer to making a profit, someone might show an interest, now is the time to sell.
Especially if it's not something that you're, like, wholeheartedly invested in.
And you can sell, like, the potential of what they can do on Spike at the moment. Like, it's not the case that they'd still only be like, we're losing money, we need to sell this thing. They might be looking at some decent strategic reasons why, like, end of 05 would be a good time to try and get out of TNA while the getting is good.
They also might just think that this is the time where we might get the most money for the least amount of money we've put in. Because we won't have to keep putting money into it, and we might get a decent check out of people being like, well, this is something on the upswing that we can invest in. Because
like Dave goes through the history of people they tried to sell to, including Dave Nelson, who we talked about at one stage, and the guy who financed Randy Savage's CD, and some Jarrett people that were brought to the table. And like, when they were trying to sell to those people, they had nothing to sell, really. It's like, we have this company that is not making money and does not look like it's going to make money and is paying for a television deal. Whereas now you're like, we have this company that has like big name stars like Sting and Christian. We have this company that has national television on Spike TV. There is something to actually sell at the moment. So they might be at the point where it's like, maybe now's the time we actually sell up on this thing, make as much as we can back, and then cut our losses.
Yeah, I think a part of that is like the idea of, we also don't know like how long the good will be good. So while we are good right now, and like like in a decent position to offer something of value, this is the time when they're basically just trying to cash in their chips.
With Morphoplex and others, there were also attempts to bring in other partners for new capital while still maintaining control. When push came to shove, it was clear they wanted to maintain it, but in the end it seems that when they think someone wants to own it, it makes them think it is a viable business in the long haul. So they're like the classic, if somebody wants to buy this thing is probably worth buying, so let's keep it. There is tremendous pressure to increase revenue since costs are pretty much fixed at around this level, and in particular on raising the buy rates, which is the quickest way to turn around business. Panda Energy is a private company believed to have 200 million per year in total revenues, but in recent years is believed to have been losing significant money. Recently it was considered a company in financial trouble last year in different newspaper stories, and he goes through like how much money Bob Carter has versus how much money other people have. I think Panda got heavily into like renewables, which is where they've made a lot of their money, which at least means they're not a thoroughly evil energy company.
I mean, come.
Only the normal level of evil that any company is. And points out that they're in no danger of losing Spike TV, so the Carters, at least, as I said, you could look at TNA at the end of 2005 compared to the end of 2004 and be like, there's a path to a sustainable business here.
There's value.
Yeah, which was not the case at the end of 2004. 2 editions of TNA Impact will air on New Year's Eve on Spike TV. At 8 p.m, you'll have your regular episode of Impact and a primetime special. Then after UFC programming, a second episode of Impact will air at midnight with Christian Cage counting down into 2006.
Wow. Amazing. I like this idea because it's like me when they do the New Year's shuffle tag tournaments in Japan. And you're like, this is going to be the first notebook match of the year.
Oh, when it ticks into the official next year and you're like, yeah, open a new sheet in the spreadsheet, baby.
Pick a new color for the spreadsheet, baby.
Whereas here, the first match is America's Most Wanted versus AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels for the NWA World Tag Team titles.
Which could have done it.
It got close. I think I went 3.5 on it.
Yeah, some years when I was noting down every match that went 3.5 and above, it would have made it.
I think I always went 3.75 because I'm like, I like 3.75s.
I did, I changed because like sometimes it's just I don't want to fill in so many matches. I'm like, this year I'm going to do 4. This year I'll do 3 3/4. This year I'll do 3.5.
4 makes it a lot less work.
It does indeed. But also I run math.
Oh, you do. You are like a full sicko.
Yeah, well, I was. I have not done it like last year.
Yeah, I haven't kept a spreadsheet in a few years. Like, COVID broke my spreadsheet habit, and then I'm just like, I don't care anymore.
I get through like February. And then I drop off every year. So I always have a very detailed first 2 months.
Spreadsheets are for life, not just for Christmas, Liam.
My God.
I like this idea though. It's a fun little thing where it's like you tape a little 30-minute New Year's special with a cool match and like the big announcement. This is where they announce Sting is coming to TNA officially. We'll talk about the actual show itself, as we said, when we're talking about the stories from the month. But yeah, I think it's a fun little thing that they never did again.
Yeah, well, like this is obviously when they have the most cachet with Spike at this time too. So
I guess it wouldn't really make sense for UFC to do this.
I like they. It's a lot harder to time with fights that aren't pre-planned.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you are like UFC, it's like, what do? Do you send like Ken Shamrock out there to count down?
Yeah, it's like in the middle of like some fight, everyone does a countdown. Fireworks go off as at this point, who would be fighting? Chuck Liddell.
Yeah,
just getting his brain caved in.
You have the first fight of the year, and Chuck Liddell goes out.
They time it perfectly to the countdown.
Yeah, it was, of course, not live, but there's some fun notes about Christian blowing the countdown that we'll get to when we talk about the shows.
They should have done it live.
It's one of those things that you would have thought wrestling companies should do that as a little tradition thing. I guess you have to have the buy-in of the television network. Though in the streaming world, you can do some kind of streaming special. But it's just one of those things that could have become like a cool tradition where TNA has.
It was a cool tradition in Japan.
Yeah, but like for TNA,
then they had to get rid of it because of fucking COVID's time restrictions, and then they never brought it back to actually going through midnight.
Oh,
which sucks. What's the point of it if you're not going to have the countdown before the main event?
It's literally the whole entire point of the concept.
Yeah, I'm very salty about that.
You clearly are.
I really liked having the countdown and then being able to watch my first match of the year.
Even though, how do time zones work? How close is Japan?
I'm like an hour in front of Japan.
So you would have gotten there earlier than Japan?
Yeah, but I go by the region's time when I go for dates and stuff. So
TNA presented Sting in a conference call with assembled members of wrestling.
I
and
hope you
mainstream
commit to
media
that
on
bit for the
Wednesday.
next 20 years that we do this.
Yeah, to discuss his return to TNA. Sting addressed criticism that he doesn't have what it takes anymore, and he'll simply overshadow the new stars of the business. He said his intentions are not to push everyone aside, but to elevate the product. Sting said, only time will tell if I have anything left in the tank or not. The way I left wrestling was not the way I wanted to leave. If I don't do something now at my age, it's just never going to happen. We say as we ramp up into the last 3 months of Sting's career.
As we are on Sting's retirement tour in 2024.
It's only been 18 years since he did this interview.
And he did basically the same interview when he went to AEW. The way I left wrestling was not the way I wanted to leave.
Yeah, hopefully he does finally get to put his bow on it. I hope something doesn't go terribly badly at Revolution. He starts showing up in MLW being like, the way I left wrestling was not the way I wanted to leave.
Please, God, let me have this.
It is like the Undertaker thing where you continually chase that last match, but your last match is more embarrassing than the one that came before it. So it's just like, I need one more, just it's not terrible.
I need a hit.
And he finally got the Boneyard match with AJ, and he was like, that's close enough. Sting said he had recent conversations with WWE and Vince McMahon before signing with TNA. The schedule was one of the deal breakers with WWE. I can say that they were willing to work with me on the schedule, but I know in 2006 they're going to be leaving the country more times than I believe they ever had. I'm sure there would be some times that would be barely tolerable. I spent too many years running at that pace. I don't want to leave my family again. Sting said he hit the gym to work out and be physically prepared for a return to wrestling. He said he won't be able to work the X Division style at his pace, getting in there with Sanjay Dutt doing Dragon Ranas.
That's awesome. He should, and also kind of what he does now.
Yeah, it is funny that he's just New Jack. The goal is to depend on storylines and work with larger wrestlers such as Abyss to carry him. Sting said he would be able to walk into TNA with the intention of helping, not hurting, the wrestlers who are already on the roster. I know there are wrestling fans who don't want me to come back. There are wrestlers who don't want me back there. Then again, there's a lot of them that do. I know I have the physical part of it. My age is a factor. I have all these issues and the things I have to deal with. Sting said he wants to bolster TNA's drawing power to negotiate a better time slot with Spike TV. But they're once again Monday night. Bullshit. It's like, God damn it. They're all obsessed with this Monday Night War. They can't leave it alone. Sting says, I've been part of a company that had to do that before, so I know it can be done again. If anything, maybe I can add some of the tenacity or the fight to be able to just fight through the tough times or potentially the thin times that might be ahead. Although I believe we're going to be successful. They can't leave it go. They just can't.
They can't leave it go.
Someone mentioned my critics and some of the guys who think Sting's going to come back and just push everyone aside. That won't work. I know one of the ways to give back is to actually give back and elevate some of the guys I'm working with. That is my intention. In the long run, if we do everything right, storyline included, it will be a payoff for everyone. Hopefully some of the critics will see it like that. Sting said he wants no part of booking and just wants to contribute to stories that he enjoys. I just want to get back into the mix and give back in any way that makes sense. Just the reason he hasn't put anybody over in AEW. I want to make storylines interesting again for wrestling fans. I want the alternative to be a good, strong alternative. I'll offer all kinds of stuff for other people just like I did before. I wasn't on the booking committee in WCW, but I had a lot of creative control over what I did. How do you feel about, like, I threw it in as a little jab there. Like, Sting hasn't put over anybody in AEW.
Yeah, he's made Darby Allin a bigger star, but that's it.
Yeah, but that's just by teaming with them.
Yeah, but like that's still getting someone over.
Do you think it has been a mistake, the degree to which Sting he's won every match? He's put nobody over.
No, because there hasn't been a real situation where I'm like, Sting has beaten the wrong guy.
That is true.
And I think his purpose, I think the value he brought to getting Darby over as a major star is more valuable than the doofuses that he's beaten along the way.
When asked if he would consider a run with the NWA title, Sting said, I don't want the world title, although if it makes sense to do that, I'm willing to do that. He's like, no, but yes.
Which, honestly, I believe.
Other notes, Sting was indignant and nearly offended when asked about a possible WCW reunion show similar to ECW One Night Stand. Sting said, I don't really understand. History is gone, it's done. Why go back and rehash in 2006 the accomplishments WCW did or did not make? Well, Sting, let me tell you about how long that still goes.
Well, like, I think that part of that is, like, a lot of the WCW guys were, like, actual real Major League Pro Wrestling stars who didn't have to, like, hold on to that part of their career forever. Whereas, like, a lot of the ECW stars, that was the biggest thing they ever did.
Yeah, when you compare, like, Kevin Nash to Just Incredible.
Yeah, it's like, of course, like, a bunch of those guys are like, yes, let's do ECW stuff and get as much money as possible, when it's like, Goldberg's like, I don't give a fuck, I'll go do this shit.
Also, Goldberg is a big enough star that he can just do new stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think, like, but a part of it is a lot of WCW were just bigger stars.
Yeah, but when Goldberg comes to WWE, he doesn't need to do WCW nostalgia because he's Goldberg.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, that comes from being in WCW and not having a reliance on it.
Yeah, but so stop yelling at me. I agree.
You're yelling at me. I made the point first.
I'm reaffirming your point, sir. But yeah, a lot of the ECW guys is just like, what do we got other than ECW nostalgia?
Yeah.
Whereas DDP didn't really do much. He failed in his WWE run, and that was disappointing. But if you're a Hulk
yeah, but he was
Hogan
still
or
a big
Ken-
enough star that whenever he showed up anywhere else, it wasn't, look, this guy's wearing a WCW shirt.
Yeah, let's do the WCW reunion show. Sting mentioned The Rock as someone he wants to come back to, as someone he wants to see come into TNA to work with, and also mentioned Abyss, Samoa Joe, and AJ Styles, top of his current list of wrestlers he wants to work with. Didn't mention Jeff Jarrett.
He's already worked with him.
Yeah, but he didn't mention.
He's also mentioned Abyss twice. Dude really wants Abyss.
Apparently Sting wasn't too familiar with the product beforehand, but was blown away by Samoa Joe.
Like most people.
On the January 4th edition of Bite This, a caller sincerely asked Todd Grisham about Sting signing with TNA and how Vince McMahon must feel about it. I don't think Vince McMahon cares, Todd replied. He avoided the question by keeping it in character for Vince. He's the interim GM and he only cares about himself, and that's about it right now, he responded.
Good bit. Good response.
This is one of those weird eras where it's just like, they had that call-in show and people would call in and just say shit, and Todd Grisham would have to be there and react to shit.
I wonder, like, how anxious he was before every taping.
This is like, what are they going to throw at me this time?
It just reminds me of that, like, do you remember that clip of, like, Edge on the talk show? Where
Which
the
talk
guy
show?
rings up in his, I don't know, and is like, is wrestling fake? He's like, my kids and my wife tell me it's fake, but I say it's not.
Oh,
And
no.
Edge is like, you fucking idiot.
Oh, dear.
Tears into him. He's like, of course it's fake.
That is the woes of asking wrestling fans to contribute to anything.
I haven't seen this, but, like, because of the Perth show, there's a lot of, like, normie sort of WWE guys on morning shows and stuff, right? And I don't think there's ever been a country in this world that doesn't understand wrestling more than Australia in the mainstream.
Are you still, like, back in the 1980s kind of stuff? Where like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we have to mock it the whole time because of how ridiculous it is. But apparently, like, Rhea Ripley was on one of the biggest morning shows, and they were just destroying her with the most, like, stuff that, like, Americans would have said 20 years ago, but now I've learned to respect it. And just being like, so is this wrestling stuff fake? Like, that kind of shit. And poor Rhea Ripley just had to deal with it as she's being mocked live on air trying to promote this billion-dollar company.
Yeah, it is funny how, like, we kind of got through all that in the US, and it's just now, like, wrestling is just the same as any television show would be doing a junket. It's just like, Rhea Ripley is here to promote the television show she's doing. That's what's understood in America now.
Yeah.
As you said, there was this weird thing, because Becky Lynch is famously not a star in Ireland.
Yeah, sorry, before you bring it up, like, that was what it was instantly compared to when I saw it on Twitter. It was like, this is like Becky in Ireland.
Yeah, so there was that interview she did with a comedian here named Tommy Tiernan, a bit of a dope. But he has a late night talk show, and he had her on as well. And, like, the tone of the interview was the exact same thing. It's like, that's all fake, isn't it? It's like, dude, it's 2023.
Like, everyone's gotten over it.
This is not a question anybody asks. Like, I don't even think kids think it's real anymore. Like...
Yeah, like, it's a different beast now. It is performance art more than it is a shoot pro wrestling thing.
As you said, it is a $1 billion entertainment property. That is what it is, and it is seen as. And, like, it's so weird that, like, because Becky Lynch is not a star here, and she should be. Like, we cling on to anybody, and then she doesn't get any airtime over here. It's actually kind of bizarre. But then when she does finally get, like, an appearance on our national broadcaster, it's just that same old shite of, like, Asher, it's not real, though, is it?
Yeah, how do you even understand any of this?
Because if you go back and read, like, mainstream writing about wrestling from, like, the 70s, there is always, like, the tone of, there is this weird carnal sensation to it that you simply cannot deny, but it is for the unintellectual and the people without brains. You know, they're like, they understand, like, the visceral appeal of it, but still look down on it.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Like, how do you... it's impossible.
You just have to get it in front of people often enough that they're like, this is normal, okay.
Yeah, I think that's a part of, like, here too, is that, like, wrestling is not on any major free television thing, and free television reigns supreme here.
Yeah, it's the same in Ireland. Like, there's never been mainstream wrestling in Ireland, you know? It's not that, like, WWE has never come here, or there's never been shows on TV, but there's never been, like, a moment in Irish history where wrestling was in any way important to something that was happening in Ireland. And I'd imagine it's the same in Australia. As opposed to the UK, which did at least have World of Sport, you know, which was an actual cultural institution in the UK. And obviously pro wrestling television has been the backbone of cable since cable has existed.
Wrestling wasn't... Like, the only time that wrestling's ever been big here was, like, the 80s. Was the Australian territory stuff. Like, that was literally the only time we ever had, like, stars. Like, where people would just know people. Like, we don't have, like as big as WWE is still now, we do not have that here. And that is part of, like, the fact that, you know, free television reigns supreme in this country, and no one is on free television. I know for a fact that, like, WWE, like, I was looking at it for AEW, but, like, even WWE stuff does not rank in our ratings weekly. Like, in our top 25 shows. Watched on exclusively paid stuff still. Like, just on, like, paid services, it still doesn't rank in that. It's like, so it has to be, like, under 100,000.
Yeah, wrestling is, at the end of the day, still a pretty niche genre of entertainment.
It's like, it's big in one country. But it's just like, it is the niches of the niche here. And I honestly, like, I think, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, is like, I don't foresee, much like, I don't know, I assume maybe if this is the case in Ireland too, is like, Australia, I don't see us ever getting behind an American property like that either. Like, we are very much, like, in our sport and sport-like genres, we are the home team kind of country. So I couldn't foresee even WWE breaking through into the mainstream because everyone would be like, it's the fucking Yanks.
Do you think they could even get away with doing, like, an NXT Australia?
Yes, to a certain extent. It would have a cap on it, but they would need to get on, like, a proper free TV channel at a reasonable time. So it's like, it would be difficult because they also don't pay a lot for those shows. So it's like, you have to pay a lot for this thing that you don't know would be successful to take up prime time on these networks. It is not a very, like, it's not a strong incentive for any of these channels to take it either. No. When you can just do a studio clip show thing for, like, a 20th of the price, and that will do gangbusters.
You can just do a new season of Survivor Australia.
It's My Kitchen Rules.
I'm currently watching Survivor Australia, so...
How does it rank as opposed to other Survivors?
You really overproduce it over there.
Alright.
There's, like, it's so, like, aggressively produced in every way. Like, you watch the US version, and when people are just having a conversation, they just put the camera on them and run the conversation. But, like, Australian Survivor is very much like the WWE version of Survivor, where there's, like, dramatic music playing at all times. It's like, lads, scale it back a little bit. Just leave it breathe.
You are a noted connoisseur of MasterChef Australia. How did that compare to other MasterChefs?
I always liked MasterChef Australia the most because I think it was like the most chill and most laid back, and it was really positive.
Yeah, we rarely had people yelling at people.
Yeah, whereas like Australian Survivor is really in your face about everything at all times. And I'm like, guys, that's not what I want from Survivor. I want like Machiavellian scheming. I don't want like people shouting at me.
Indeed.
Sting was backstage at the TNA tapings before Final Resolution, but not used on TV. Well, his voice was used on TV, but he wasn't. Those who saw him said he looked good and was laid back and was interacting with a variety of wrestlers. He seemed to be enjoying himself and didn't seem distant or have a prima donna attitude, which he was accused of during his previous TNA appearances. TNA wrestlers expect him to earn his money.
Good for them.
TNA agent Terry Taylor, who, along with the former CEO Frank Dickerson, was cautiously opposed to Sting being brought into the company, says he had mixed feelings about the decision. As a big star at one time, I think casual fans will remember Sting and that will help us, Taylor told WeeklyWrestling.com. But I'm not sure how that helps us when we're trying to promote guys like AJ, Samoa Joe, Daniels, and Alex Shelley. I'm just wondering how that blend will be. Alternatively, Taylor said Sting has name value, which will help the company bring in new fans who are flipping stations on TV. There's also basic commitment from Sting. He's committed to work a full schedule for a full year, Taylor said. I think that's a good indication that he wants to be here. He insisted on working a full schedule. Taylor is sure Sting understands the commitment he needs to make, but he's not sure if Sting or management understand exactly what the relationship entails. There are times when you shouldn't go back, Taylor said. He has no idea what he's getting into.
Dickerson.
That was like 10 minutes ago, but...
I know, I had to hit my high spot.
Oh, sorry. There would have been another mention of Dickerson in like 2 sentences, but...
Dickerson.
Taylor said the Office, mainly himself, was iffy on bringing Sting back to the company. Once Dickerson left the company, the Office leaned more toward bringing in Sting with the encouragement from Spike TV. Spike also, I'm not sure when it comes out, but I'm pretty sure Spike did pay a portion of Sting's deal as well. So,
hey, if you can get them to do that, why not?
Yeah. He says, I know Spike likes TNA, however, if we don't get the people to understand who our characters are, we can't just... he's still the same old bullshit talking points, and then goes to talking about how 3LK are great. But it is interesting that, like, they're not wrong to think about this kind of stuff. To think about, like, there is a clear and obvious value in bringing in Sting. Sting is a big star. Sting is somebody people remember fondly.
Parallels to current AEW are being explored here.
And a guy who, like, still has the sense that there's a little more to offer and he didn't go out on his terms. So, like, there's a clear and obvious value there.
And then he punches Jungle Boy.
Whoa. But then to, like, the flip side of that is to think about, well, how does Sting help TNA other than just Sting being there? Like, what does that do for Joe? What does that do for America's Most Wanted? What does that do for Monty Brown? That's the ultimate question, that, like, we can't just make this the company of Sting. And there is, like, a worry when you look at, like, this month in particular, like, Shannon Moore shouldn't be there, you know?
Yeah.
That, like, Shannon Moore is the guy that, like, you bring in Christian, fair enough. You bring in Sting, fair enough. Shannon Moore is the guy, it's just like, you didn't need Shannon Moore. There's nothing you have in Shannon Moore that you didn't have in Sanjay Dutt.
Yeah. We've started it.
Yeah, you start. I'm like, not that they didn't have it before, because there was a period in like 2005 where it's like, you don't need Billy Gunn. You really don't. But
like, and now it's like, even Billy Gunn, like, you can kind of see, like, if you squint your eyes really hard. But, like, you look at, he's just like, Shannon Moore is like such a, like, blatant, like Val Venus, you know?
Yeah, the funnier part, Shannon Moore completely fucks them over in like a month. So it's like, not only did you not need him, he also then fucked you over. But
let's bring him back in 4 years.
Yeah, but yeah, you do begin to see it's just like, it's the company of AJ is slipping. Not that it was always the company of AJ, but they are a little too much being like, well, who can we bring in? What's the next, like, short-term pop? As opposed to, like, we have the pieces here. Let's just start putting them together.
The company of Hangman is slipping.
And some might say TNA need to restore the feeling.
Yes. We're not quite there yet.
Which I saw they tried to trademark recently, which I kind of hate, but...
The feeling must be trademarked and copyrighted.
Yeah, it was the same when they did it with Forbidden Door. It's just like, that was one Tanahashi came
You didn't even start it.
That was Tana's phrase. Nobody else.
The TNA president said that.
Yeah.
TNA president. The New Japan president said that.
But it's one of those things. There's just like, it's just co-opting fan culture, and I never really liked that.
Yeah. But I suppose, like, when you're you're trying to, like, when you're a new brand and you have something that has caught on at least a little bit, you're like, let's name something after it because it's better than something that has no background towards it, I guess.
World's End.
Which everyone loves and is associated so positively with, so...
I'm still mad there's no apostrophe in World's End.
Well, the world...
Because regardless of whether you're talking about a physical place at the end of the world or the actual end of the world, there should be an apostrophe there. The only way there shouldn't be an apostrophe there if you're talking about the end of all worlds.
Maybe that's what they're referring to.
So the world's end is like the literal end of everything.
Maybe that's what they're referring to.
Maybe that's what they're referring to. There should still probably be an apostrophe there.
I hope January is world's beginning.
Some follow-up notes from Turning Point. AJ Styles suffered a severely torn lip during his match against Samoa Joe at Turning Point.
I didn't even notice it.
The injury added dramatic bleeding to the match, but Styles paid the price when he had to have stitches to sew up the injury. Styles worked TV where he did the tag match against AMW with Daniels, and he did have to pull out of a Ring of Honor date just to be sure. Also, James Storm suffered a neck stinger following an errant death sentence by the Dudleys. Storm temporarily lost feeling in parts of his body, but was able to walk out of the ring under his own power, which must be absolutely terrifying, by the way.
Wrestling's dangerous, guys.
Yeah, to have that moment after you take a move and be like, oh no, I can't move, or I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
And for it to pass and be like, oh, thank God I'm fine. But like that moment must be absolutely fucking terrifying. Storm was able to recover in time to do the TV taping as well to work the Styles and Daniels match.
Get back out there.
TNA's Turning Point pay-per-view looks to have done 35,000 buys based on early estimates. As figured here, it was up about 80% from the disappointing number pulled by Genesis, and will end up about the same level as Bound for Glory. They still aren't showing growth from the first months on FSN, but they are showing growth from the summer. And Turning Point was a better card than Genesis, so I think that makes some sense.
Yeah, people prefer to watch good shows.
I know, it's a shocker.
I'm shocked by it.
One of those, let's see how long this one lasts. Overall, most everyone raves about the locker room atmosphere in TNA compared to recent years in WWE or the final years of WCW. Dixie Carter is well liked because she gives positive feedback to the wrestlers from top to bottom of the card.
That's a TNA wrestler. It's quoting.
We feel appreciated, says one TNA wrestler. You just don't get that feeling in other places. The downside is that wrestlers feel frustrated with everyone fitting into slots and there being no real sense of upward mobility for them or decreased push for Jeff Jarrett, no matter what the TV ratings, crowd response, or performance quality.
Yeah.
There are also some who believe there is arrogance from those who have been in WWE before, which divides the locker room at times.
It's insane. I mean, like, I guess this is just a byproduct of there being one game in town forever. That's like, this is a thing that is still happening in 2023.
Yeah, the number of talking points we've hit on this just random episode or a random month of TNA from January 2006 that still directly applied to the way people talk about AEW or the way people in AEW talk about AEW is just almost uncanny.
Well, that's the thing is, like, we there's a lot of, like, obvious negatives to one company ruling all. That, like, you can see and you feel every time you look at something in wrestling. But you have to think it, like, there's gonna be these offshoot things that come from that as well. These offshoot negatives that come from that as well that you don't notice unless these specific circumstances happen. And how often do you get a major second promotion popping up, right? Like, one every decade and a half at this point. So it's like, of course we don't see the correlation between that because there hasn't been that many instances of that.
And there is always going to be the people who are there at the start of the company who like got it off the ground, and then the people who jump on board when it's successful, and the conflict that will exist between those groups, and like the cultural fit between those groups, and maybe the thing that TNA was is not the thing that TNA is. So some of the people that were there when TNA was feel out of place, and the people who came there when it's successful are like, well, what am I meant to do?
Like, the lesson to be learned from these two instances, I think, is you have to remain loyal to the people that got you there.
Well, I think it's just find the right balance.
I'm not saying never bring anyone in. I'm saying be sparing and make sure that they are contributing to the existing culture.
Yeah, it is think about the cultural fit and then be like, do we need Shannon Moore?
And part of that may be turning down people that you think might be good for you because they will upset the environment.
And it's not like a problem yet in current TNA, where I think the current TNA roster is probably still closer to being too small than too big.
Yeah, there's a handful.
When I say current TNA, I mean 2005. But as opposed to AEW, where it's
yeah, you're gonna have to specify now.
I know. It was so much easier when it was Impact. But as opposed to AEW, where like the roster size probably got to the point of being too big in like 2021. And everyone you added to after that, it's like, that's just more mouths to feed with. Even with more TV time, it's just, you still have so many mouths to feed that you don't have enough to go around. And all wrestlers ultimately want to do, it was the exact same thing that happened in like 2018 WWE when they hired everybody on Earth and did not have something for everybody on Earth to do. And then loads of people got really frustrated and upset and weren't happy at work because wrestlers want to wrestle. Wrestlers really enjoy wrestling. It's not like the 90s where like there's guys who would take a 6-figure paycheck from WCW and be like, I am happy cashing this as long as they're willing to give it to me.
Yeah, there's not many people who will take a job and just be like happy and want to be team players. Like you'll get them. But there's not many, especially stars or people who think they're stars, that will have that attitude. Most of the time, people that have that attitude, you don't want to pick up because they don't have much value.
Yeah, and I remember like Mike Bennett. I remember interviews after he left WWE where he wasn't like, I want to be pushed, I want to be a star, I want to be this, I want to be that. He was just like, I just want to wrestle. I just want to actually be on TV and wrestle. And like that's not like this extreme demand from a dude. He just wants to like work a place and work. And I think a lot of wrestlers are like that, where they just want to do a thing and be happy with the thing they're doing.
You're always gonna be like a little more. If I were running a company that's like at the level of a TNA now or a AEW now, I would be like, there's a difference between asking for your release and getting fired. Because asking for your release shows intent, and like obviously I don't think you should write off just anyone who got fired, that you should weigh up the pros and the cons. But it's like, if like you know that there's an attitude of, I want to do this, from the people who are like not happy with never being on TV.
Speaking of not happy, Jeff Hardy no-showed the Turning Point pay-per-view, but he communicated to management he was willing to work TV on Tuesday if they wanted him.
That's dope, to be honest. To be like, I'm not coming to work, but like I'll come on Monday if you want me.
Yeah, it's like doing this pre-show multi-man tag. Fuck off. But if you need me at TV, I'll go.
Which is like fuck you.
He is Jeff Hardy though, so he can do that.
Well, he can't.
He can't, no, because management were like, nah. There is the belief that he's heading back to WWE, which he ultimately does.
I don't think that's going to happen.
It is funny, PW Torture, like, there is no indications that is the case, and then it happens a few months later.
As he's about to go have the strongest run of his career, as the biggest star of his career.
But yeah, the TNA are showing less than no interest in him at the moment. Jeff Jarrett is claiming to people that he liked Frank Dickerson and went to bat for him when word came down that he was being removed from his position in TNA. Others have said Jarrett was the one who got Dickerson axed because Dickerson didn't step in line with everything Jarrett said.
God, I love this carny son of a bitch so much.
Which critics of Jarrett would say is always designed to protect his position as a main eventer. All sources say Dickerson was well liked and respected and is already missed. So it is the classic thing of a guy got fired and everyone liked the guy, and Jeff is like, I did everything I could for him. I love Frank Dickerson.
Hey, Vince McMahon was always really nice to me, and he always really liked the story pitches I gave him.
How do people fall for this? Like, come on! Jerry Jarrett hasn't been seen at a TNA event since his WWE headquarters visit. He is back working full-time on his construction business.
Yeah, good on him.
That was after he brought young Oleg Prudius, current TNA wrestler, to WWE to try and pitch him.
The fulfillment of it all, you know?
It is very funny. Like, I think it's lost on people how like weirdly meaningful it is for Vlad Kozlov to be in TNA. It's like this weird full circle moment.
It was not lost on us. I'll tell you that for sure.
A man we haven't spoken of in a little while, Vince Russo.
Can I read the Vince Russo story?
Sure.
Vince Russo, in an interview last week with Go Hotline, said that he will never go back to WWE or TNA. He said he feels that the state of wrestling isn't just declining, but wrestling's dead, and that his new wrestling promotion, great time to start a new wrestling promotion, you know, when you think wrestling's dead, and that his new promotion, Ring of Glory, is designed so wrestlers have a place to work and know that they are not getting screwed over by management. His goal is to only glorify God, not to put inflated egos over. At ROG's next upcoming show, they will be honoring Ron Simmons for his contribution to the wrestling industry. The events he will showcase in Rome, Georgia. In Rome, Georgia, will be made available on DVD in the near future. We need to find those. He is also interested in setting up a support system where wrestlers can learn the ropes about pro wrestling and receive help managing their money, looking after their futures, and other services that Russo feels are lacking for the wrestlers in the wrestling world. In Ring of Glory, you can have a good heart and exist in the wrestling business, he says.
Fuck off.
I hate this prick so much.
I'll never go back. I'll never work anywhere. I'm done with wrestling.
I'll never cost them their Spike TV deal.
I'll never go back 3 separate times, you piece of shit.
Who would jump at the opportunity to go back now to either company?
This is the same, again, it's the same bullshit Eric Bischoff does, you know?
Yeah.
None of this is new. It's the same, like, oh, they don't get it anymore. They don't understand wrestling. I'm the one that understands wrestling. And then Vince Russo has the look at my Jesus promotion part of it as well, which would be funny if Eric Bischoff had. But
if anyone has those uploaded somewhere, because I will not pay for them, please let us know, because that's prime Patreon watch-along content.
That is Liam's Christmas present he would like.
Well, if there's any other way to celebrate, you know, the birth of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, it's with some Ring of Glory.
It's a good point. We can glorify God.
We can glorify God and not put inflated egos over.
God knows we have inflated egos enough.
Yeah, exactly. But at least we're not self-righteous enough to not admit it. We do a podcast. It's inherently inflating egos.
Samoa Joe is said to be unhappy with the rumored contract Sting has received. Around $500,000 for a year. While wrestlers with previous national TV experience, especially WWE main events, have consistently been paid more than others, the discrepancy is greater than ever. Kevin Nash was earning around $5,000 per appearance, Waltman around $2,000 per appearance, whereas Joe is paid well under $1,000 per appearance. And my boy's asking for a raise.
Hell yeah.
I don't get the sense that he is like, why am I not on Sting money?
No, he's, why am I not on better money?
Yeah, he is simply saying, I see the money you have for Sting. I would like more, please.
Considering every single person who talks about this promotion who has never seen it, all these ex-WWE guys coming in all go, this Samoa Joe guy.
It doesn't hurt his bargaining power that he is well known and liked by WWE road agent Ricky Steamboat as well as Mick Foley. He also made other contacts in the promotion, and now key people in WWE management have taken note of his reputation. TNA has pushed him as undefeated, and WWE would gladly steal him for both the message it would send to fans and the blow it would be to TNA. Joe has signed to a contract, so there's no risk of him actually leaving early. But he's like, I want some money, guys. Pay me some more money. Look at all this money you got for Sting. Why don't you get a little money for Samoa Joe?
Come on.
The TNA pay scale has been influenced by Jeff Jarrett over the past few years. It was in his best interest to continue to back the philosophy that WWE and WCW TV experience has innate value worth paying a premium for, because that's him. When you actually do like a value added thing for it, like Jeff Jarrett, you're like, well, but it's like, oh, look at my experience. And I go, all right.
What are you doing over there? Crunching numbers? You're fired. I always like that guy, though.
He has often spoken out on behalf of former WWE and WCW wrestlers wanting higher than the usual TNA scale of $500 to $750 per TV appearance. So Joe wants to get paid. All power to him. Speaking of Joe, he has sprained his ankle on an IWA Mid-South show that hampered his holidays. He told the TNAWrestling.com podcast.
My God. That should be us.
2005. I got a little bit of a banged up ankle, so I spent most of the holidays with my leg in an ice bucket trying to rehab injuries. It was just a sprain, but a little bit more, the kind of stuff that will ruin your day. Aww. So that's one of the things to keep in mind when you watch the Final Resolution 2006 match that Joe recently sprained his ankle. So he's not at 100%.
And dislocating his jaw.
Yeah, it's not a fun time for Samoa Joe.
No wonder he faked that back injury.
TNA has given me a venue to wrestle and do my thing in the ring, and that's all I ever asked for, Joe said. TNA has definitely given me that opportunity. It is funny, it's like he's out in the media. It's like, TNA is so great. They're the best. I love TNA.
I would like to be paid more, please.
There's some more quotes from Joe here. The people reading the notes if they'd like. Mostly talking about how working with Liger was cool.
I'm shocked to think that Joe would think that.
And on the back of Tanahashi coming in to face AJ at Final Resolution, he would like to wrestle Yuji Nagata or Shinsuke Nakamura.
I would also like to see that.
And the Observer then had a follow-up on that. The situation with Samoa Joe is that as of last word we had gotten, no new deal had been reached between the two sides, but Joe and TNA management were going on the impression that they would be reaching a new deal, and nobody is panicking with the idea that Joe would be leaving. Joe has also denied interest in leaving.
When does he leave?
January 2015.
What was the circumstance around that? It was just, I now have an NXT shot.
I think a little bit of the same money isn't going around anymore. And as you said, a little bit of suddenly I'm employable elsewhere in a way that for a very long time I wasn't in WWE for dopey reasons.
And now he'll be the world champion of the second biggest promotion in the world.
He fucking better win that match. I'm just gonna be so mad if MJF wins.
I put money on it, so I hope he does.
Vested interest. TNA announced its first house show set for March 17th in the Detroit, Michigan area. The show is being held at the 4,500-seat CompuWare Sports Arena in Plymouth. Keep that in mind. That's the venue that will ultimately be for Bound for Glory. Jarrett versus Rhino, Joe versus AJ, Sabin versus Monty, and Sabu versus Abyss have all been announced for the show. Tickets there at $10.
You got some Detroit faves in big positions there.
Yeah, I guess that's why Sabin versus Monty is two Detroit guys facing off.
Also Rhino.
And Sabu.
Yeah.
So yeah, TNA are getting out there trying to sell some tickets. They also do a bunch of shows with Hermie Sadler's company. We might watch some of them. I don't know. Maybe not. But they are just house shows that have TNA talent that are co-promoted with Hermie Sadler's UFW? UWF? Whatever Hermie Sadler called his company.
Cool.
Your famous love of Hermie Sadler.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
A resurgence of a story from, what I want to say, early 2004. The next bit of unhappiness among talent may be the company wanting to redo contracts that give the company control over independent dates the wrestlers work. Right now, the first step is trying to have the wrestlers having to clear their indie dates through the office, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
Just so you don't have conflicts with existing TNA dates. But now, increasingly wanting to control and once again take a cut of indie dates is another thing that's on the table.
That's the most bullshit
TNA.
shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's either you pay them to be full-time and then you send them out, or you don't take their money and you allow them to work indie dates to subsidize their perhaps lower income from working for TNA. You can't have it both ways.
No.
Because one thing if they were like, we are going to sign you to a bigger contract, but then we are going to basically sublet you out to indies and take a large cut of that. That would be like, fair enough.
Makes sense.
But no, being like, we would like to sign you to a lower contract and then also take a cut of the indie dates you did take to increase your income. Fuck off.
Yeah, fuck off tremendously.
There is some political reasons why they want to at least control bookings a little more, in that like TNA has a deal with New Japan, but Team 3D are working with All Japan and Big Mouth Loud. AJ's working deals.
Shout out to Big Mouth Loud, by the way, my favorite promotion ever. R.I.P.
Dutch Mantel booked James Storm to work Puerto Rico for the WWC, which is like the loose company they're working with, but then Ron Killings and Conan booked themselves for the IWA and caused more political problems. So there is some reasons they're trying to lean on it, but that taking the cut of the revenue is fucking bullshit.
They could also probably get away with like that if they were just like, you get to keep your money.
A clarification on the baseball angle, base brawl. Sorry, Dave, it's not a baseball angle; it's a base brawl angle from the last pay-per-view show. While the idea was for Team Canada to work rather than Diamonds in the Rough to work the baseball players, it didn't happen because Team Canada was doing the Trial K story, not because they turned it down.
Should have been hockey versus baseball.
It should have been hockey versus baseball. They should have given Diamonds in the Rough to Trial K. They did get it the wrong way around. Spike TV this week finalized its decision to not put a major show on February 13th when Raw is preempted due to the Westminster Dog Show. According to sources, Spike had pressured TNA into signing one more marquee superstar who would debut on the show besides Sting before they would approve the special, and TNA failed to do so. It's hard to figure out what they were expecting because the only person available who would have fit their criteria was The Rock. And while we do know he's had communication with Jeff Jarrett at the Video Game Awards, it's more along the lines of wanting his advice on the product. There's a very funny video on this month's TNA where they're recapping the Game Awards, and they have AJ Styles standing next to Donald Faison.
Of course.
The best combination you'll ever see in your life. They should put AJ in scrubs. And then they show The Rock coming out to present an award, and they're like, you'll never guess who Jeff Jarrett ran into backstage. And then they show a little, 3 seconds of The Rock, and there you are. That is The Rock's only appearance in TNA until the 2020 Bound for Glory Hall of Fame ceremony for Ken Shamrock.
I'm sorry, I got distracted by a very important article.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Have you been Googling the Westminster Dog Show again?
Yes. There's a Where Are They Now?
For the dogs?
Oh, it's for the people.
Boo! I don't give a fuck about the people. I want to be like, Spot now chases things in retirement. He's having a grand old time.
What the fuck? This is bullshit. I wanted to see where the dogs were now. There's hidden gems? Who are the hidden gems, dog?
Yeah, the ones that flew under the radar, that didn't get the attention and justice they deserve.
The Tibetan Spaniel is an underrated dog, apparently.
Good for them.
Anyway, May 13th, 14th. Look forward to our coverage.
Yeah, only 5 months away from the Westminster Dog Show.
Of the 2024 Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show.
It is interesting that while Dave is talking about that apparently Spike wanted to sign one more big star, he says he doesn't believe Spike would have thought Brock Lesnar was a big enough name. And it's really interesting to me that post original WWE run, pre-UFC Brock Lesnar, Dave is like, that guy's not really a big enough name to bring in to really satisfy your TV deal.
God, 2005 Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, drop him in there with AJ. Fuck, Brock and AJ would have rocked back then.
Yeah. I mean, they rocked when they had their match anyway.
Yeah. The move is the first real sign, the move being Spike not putting the show on February 13th, is the first real sign of a lack of full faith in TNA, in particular its star power, because for months everything had pointed to 213 as TNA's golden opportunity to reach new viewers, or 13-2 if you're in Europe. It's believed Spike's decision was that it didn't believe TNA was ready for a Monday night special, which, I am so thoroughly against any idea, any even inclination to do another Monday Night War. It does seem like a real layup to just put something TNA on that Monday night, you know?
Yeah.
I don't get why you wouldn't do it. You have a clear Monday night when, in theory, viewers would be watching Raw. Suddenly Raw's not on that night. Why don't you just put something there, you know?
It's because it's not directly competing, you know?
Even with absolutely no intention to follow it up with a Monday Night War, at least put something there to try and steal some of WWE's audience.
Yeah. I mean, there's no negatives, it feels. I guess it doesn't really make I don't see it, and especially with the idea of they're not ready when they've already done similar things. I don't know.
Maybe Spike were like, if we do a Monday special, people will actually think we are going to go to war.
Yeah.
And we don't want to do that. TNA had expected to get a special that night and had not been told it wasn't happening, but over the past week, most read the writing on the wall that since they weren't told it was, the time was running out and it wasn't going to happen. Dave also follows up with a cryptic note that I've no idea what he's talking about, because I don't think it actually leads to anything. But there are talks going on right now with two wrestlers who I could consider bigger stars than Sting. The deal opened a lot of eyes, including some top-of-the-line WWE folk. However, I don't see anyone else getting anywhere near the deal that Sting got, I assume. Chris Jericho, who has always been negative about going when asked by TNA officials, did remark recently he'd be very interested if he could get Sting money, but it doesn't look like anyone else is going to be getting that deal. The only person he could be talking about is The Rock.
Well, I don't know. Brock, after he just said...
Goldberg's gone from WWE at this point, so maybe Bill?
Yeah.
And, they bring in Scott Steiner in March, but you wouldn't be like, Scott Steiner, a bigger star than Sting.
No. Unless it's someone whose deal was coming up at the time?
Yeah, maybe somebody was going to jump. You never know. But yeah, it's a weird one to think about. Like, who could Dave been talking about? Dave, name names!
Let's send him a message in the mailbag.
Hello, Dave. In early January 2006, you were talking about these big names that might be jumping to TNA but didn't. Who were they? And then he'll be like, Shinsuke Nakamura.
What?
TNA original Toby Keith was at the January 3rd tapings, but was never announced because Keith, who was in the front row with his sons, asked not to be put on television in order to keep the privacy of his family. When asked if they could show him being on camera there without showing his kids, he also said no.
Nice of TNA to respect the people in their audience and not show them without their consent or knowledge.
They
will stick around forever.
They would never, sir.
No.
People say he got fired because of that, and he didn't. He got fired 6 months later.
But it's funnier.
Like, he got fired because no one gave a shit about the Highlanders. That was just a funny thing that happened.
I kind of they didn't bring him in.
That was very rude of them. Not even give the lad a booking.
They've done a whole bit about it.
Hell may have froze over since there is a possibility of Low-Key coming back to TNA, which is something that some thought impossible.
Well, I would like Low-Key back.
So keep that in mind for
Senshi?
April. You don't get him back till April, but Low-Key is on his way back.
He's low-key on his way back.
Ah, I see what you did there.
It's a joke that no one's ever made before.
No, he's cavalling to TNA.
I've got a sixth senshi about these things.
That's the news. That brings us to broad topics, starting with the Final Resolution 2006 main event, which was Sting and Christian Cage facing the King of the Mountain Jeff Jarrett and the Alpha Male Monty Brown.
Yeah, nothing like a pay-per-view main event tag.
I kind of like a pay-per-view main event tag. It has to be the debut of Sting, you can get away with doing a pay-per-view main event tag. But like, you can't just do it. If this was like Christian and Rhino against Jarrett and Monty, nah, terrible, you can't do it.
Yeah.
But because it's Sting, it is Sting.
They get a pass.
You are returning Sting.
We're pretending debuting.
Yeah, it was funny. We mentioned this on the watch along at one point, but there's a video package on the pay-per-view where they show Sting's 2003 stuff, and like, they did not do that at all in the build-up because they're like, it's the debut, it's Sting is coming, and when they get to the pay-per-view, they're gonna be like, we can admit he was here before now, you bought the pay-per-view.
You fools. They should know that no one watched that era anyway.
So the December 17th Impact opens with a recap of what happened at Turning Point. As you remember, after Jarrett beat Rhino in the main event, there was that tease, the JPEGs appeared, and Sting's, was it just the bat and the boots or something appeared on a chair in the middle of the ring, and they looked shocked and flabbergasted.
In kayfabe, did Sting put them there?
That's a good question. Did he like lower them slowly down from the rafters?
Balancing them precariously on a steel chair.
Yeah, that's a lot to get done with the lights going out for like 3 seconds as well. That's quite impressive of Sting.
Or did he just like hire a guy?
Just to sneak into the ring?
He hired Christian Cage to do it. He's like, we're going to team up. So can you just do this for me, please?
Yeah, we need you to slip out there.
Interesting dilemma that we've come across.
So Jarrett kicks off this episode of Impact. He runs out to the ring. Not to the ring, to the announce desk, because who does he ask when he needs to find something out, Liam? It's always Mike Tenay.
I unironically think that this might be the best thing that Jeff Jarrett does.
Just anytime he needs to know something. He doesn't go to the Director of Authority, Larry Zbyszko, or the head of TNA Management. I don't think he's technically DOA. But he doesn't go to Larry Z. He goes to Mike, because he's like, Mike, you're in the know. Everybody always tells you everything. You're the interrogator, or whatever that segment was called. You should know all of these things.
Exactly. I don't know, I think him and Mike Tenay have such good, like, chemistry together.
Tenay is like, I don't know. I know what you know. I always know what you know. Why are you shouting at me?
It's good stuff.
A reoccurring trend in Jeff Jarrett segments this month that we'll talk about a lot. The crowd are chanting boring at him as he does his promo.
He just, like, ignores him.
Yeah, and, like, these people are so over this dude as champion. He's just, like... And he does the same thing, because it's always like, TNA management, you want to bring in Sting? If you want a war, you got a war. Conspiracy theory, take our spots. It's that same promo. He's been doing it for 6 months. He does it 4 times this month.
6 months? He's been doing it for 4 years.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not even the case that you can be like, they're bored of him as champion, because, well, they are, but it's increasingly they're bored of him being the exact same person as champion every week.
I think they're just bored of him.
Yeah, I think he's bored of him.
But, like, I don't, there can't be anything, he must be, like, running purely on paranoia at this point. Like, he can't be getting any sort of creative fulfillment from this role.
Yeah, that's the whole thing in the summer where like he was worried about his position of power in the company, and that's the reason he wanted to keep the belt. And he didn't want to drop it to AJ, and he was like, "What if we drop it to Monty this time?" So like I do think him being champion is just entirely about his political position in the company.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it truly just has to be a running on fear, the great motivator.
So we got a little tease at the end of this segment that you would think is a thing they should have followed through on to the end, but I guess they kind of didn't. But as Jarrett is leaving, after shouting at Mike Tenay, Samoa Joe enters for the opening match. They walk out, they meet eyes, they stare down. Jarrett kind of nervously eyes his own title as he looks in the eyes of Samoa Joe, and Joe goes on to do his match against Jay Lethal that we'll talk about when we get the X Division stuff. But it's interesting that like here they're teasing Samoa Joe perhaps eyeing up more than the X Division title.
It was honestly like very well done. For like, I know it's a little small segment, it's hard to fuck up, but I remember like even when I was watching it, I like stood up in my chair a little bit, you know what I mean? I was like, ooh. It's
the classic like Paul Heyman segments bleeding into each other kind of thing, where it's like Joe's coming out for the match as Jarrett is leaving, to set up that tease, which is probably what they should have followed through on. Like they ultimately pivot to Sting, which is understandable that Sting is the guy to kind of end Jarrett for good, but it should have been Joe.
Yeah, but I don't know, maybe they... But I do find it hard to believe that they were like, even in this moment, like Joe's gonna be the guy.
Yeah, they were probably just like, let's do a little thing, let's lay a little seed. If not for anything else, then to suggest that Joe is like destined for bigger and better things.
Yeah, like it feels like you're putting him on a level at least, even if you're not going to follow through with a program.
Yeah, you're just saying Joe is looking at that belt, and he will be looking at that belt in the future.
Also, it does put over Joe because it's like the world champion is fearful of this guy.
Rightfully so.
And it's like, I don't know, it's like weirdly gracious of a Jeff Jarrett to do.
I was literally just thinking that was like, how did Jarrett not politic his way out of this segment?
I do.
We shouldn't be putting the X Division guy out there with the heavyweight guy. We shouldn't be putting them on the same page. You know, it's bad booking. It makes me look bad.
My guess is maybe like he knows he's not actually doing a program. So he's like, I'm not actually going to have to put this guy over.
There is no actual fear of him having to wrestle. Well, he does wrestle him by September, but in the immediate future, there is no fear of him having to wrestle Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
We had a couple of promos in that show because Jarrett's out again for the main event, but we get a couple of promos backstage. The franchise has Jarrett. He's talking about how he has to go to war and AMW will be by his side, and he's recruiting again. Gail walks in. She's mad about the Jackie Gata stuff, and Jarrett's like, it's not what it seems. Gail pushes Jarrett away, and he gets mad because he's like, the tone of the Jarrett and Gail segments for this entire month are all like, listen, woman, you shouldn't be mad at me. And she's like, woman?
Yeah. I don't get what the implication is about their relationship.
Gail and Jarrett or Jackie and Jarrett?
Gail and Jarrett.
Yeah.
Because, like, the way they frame it, like, it comes across as, like, weirdly personal. When, like, it feels like their on-screen relationship has always been one of, like, a professional relationship.
Yeah, because, like, the story is, and I think they explain it this month, and we'll probably get into it, but that, like, Jackie Gata was promised a spot in TNA, and Gail Kim was brought in instead. So the Planet Jarrett spot was promised, quote-unquote, to Jackie Gata, and they brought Gail in instead, and she's showing up to get what's hers. Like, that's the story they're telling. But as you said, it there's a weird tension there that feels deeper than the manager of Planet Jarrett.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, it comes across as weird, and then, like, ultimately, it doesn't really feel like it goes anywhere. Like, the whole thing with Jarrett eventually just kind of transitions to D'Amore.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think they, like, maybe started this with an idea and then very quickly decided not to go in that direction.
Because later in the show again, Jarrett is recruiting Diamonds in the Rough. They're with him, but Jarrett really wants Monty. He's like, where's Monty? I don't care about, like, it's nice to have you, Simon, but Monty's the guy I want around here. Gail confronts him again, and Jarrett is like, I don't have time for this.
And then it's like, you don't have 3 minutes to, like, tell her something in the time where you're not finding Monty Brown?
And then again later in the show, Jarrett and Team Canada are backstage. Scott has talked to Monty and told him Jarrett wants to talk to him. Monty didn't seem happy about that, naturally, based on their entire relationship together. Jarrett then asks Gail what's wrong, and she's like, not like you care, and she's petulantly painting her nails.
Cool.
This is the show where they air the Spike VGA's recap where AJ Styles is with Donald Faison and Mike Tenay's like, you'll never believe who Jeff Jarrett bumped into.
And it was Dwayne.
It's so funny that there's like no follow-up on that. I get it's like it's a push to the VGAs, but there's not like, you would have thought they would have tried in everything in their power to shoot like a 20-second video with The Rock.
They probably did try. He probably told him to fuck off.
Yeah, that's probably true. He's like, I can't do that. You know why I can't do that. But listen, I like what you guys are doing. You guys are doing great.
Come on, Jeff.
He was probably very nice and very diplomatic about that, but like very sternly, no.
He's like, I'll see you in 18 years for Ken Shamrock's induction.
So main event segment, Planet Jarrett is in the ring. Jarrett runs down all the recent talent signings. They've signed 3D, they've signed Rhino, they've signed Christian, and now Sting is coming too. So everything he said about the new talent coming to take people's spots has come to pass. He is right, it is true, and everyone should join his side. He demands and gets a declaration of loyalty from Team Canada, from AMW, and from Abyss, and that leaves the alpha male Monty Brown. Monty is happy with Jarrett's fashion choices, which I think is dubious. He compliments Jarrett.
He looked like shit.
Yeah.
He did not look good.
This is the most out of character moment of Monty Brown.
That's when you know he's turning heel.
Complimenting Jeff Jarrett's choice of clothes is...
When he put over a shitty Jeff Jarrett fit.
Which is all of them, frankly.
Yeah, like, sometimes he has, like... But, like this is nothing. This is, like, actively awful.
So Monty is like, kill or be killed, hunt or be hunted. This is survival of the fittest. These are his 3 rules, which are honestly the same rule rephrased 3 different times.
Yes.
Monty should come up with more rules. He says he's all in. He shakes Jarrett's hand. Then the Scorpion JPEG appears on the screen as Christian, Rhino, and Team 3D stand atop the ramp, presumably forming the JPEG Mafia.
Very good.
Thank you. That joke is written into the show notes, and if you heard Liam do a little sigh there, I think it's because he read ahead and saw it written into the show notes before I said it.
Then I remembered that you said it on the watch along.
Yeah, workshopping material.
Yeah, you got to take the material around the country first before you film the special.
It's very important. December 24th, Impact, Christmas Eve. Santa Claus and his little helper come to the ring.
This is an incredibly horny segment.
Mike Tenay, because Santa is played by Matt Bentley for some reason, and obviously the little helper is played by Tracy. I feel like the only reason Santa is played by Matt Bentley is so that the little helper can be played by Tracy.
Yes.
Mike and Dawn are losing their minds over Tracy wearing her, like, it's not the schoolgirl outfit she wears, she's wearing like a little helper outfit of some sort.
It's like a Mrs. Claus thing.
Yeah, like they're literally like cartoon coyote, like...
Awooga! Steam pouring out their ears, banging the table, wolf whistling.
They are going mad over Tracy Brooks, and they're like, she brought the real gifts, implying her breasts. Her breasts are the real gifts, Liam.
Oh, yeah. Do you ever like wonder? It's like, this is a work colleague. Do you ever look at it through that lens?
Yeah.
Like, I know they're filming a television show, but like, this is your colleague. That you have to go out the back and like eat catering with.
And you're like, oh, sorry about being like awooga about you on TV, but you know how it is.
And like, I mean, like, I'm sure Tracy doesn't care at this point, but it's like, it's just like, it's not. I'm not even like tutting it. I think it's just a funny thing to think about.
So Christian Cage interrupts Santa Claus and he's like, I hope you got me all my presents, Santa Claus. He gets some white pants, just like Jeff Jarrett. He then spends a bizarrely long time getting those pants on because they are very tight. And as he's pulling them up, he leans down and he is at chest height with Tracy Brooks and stares at her boobs.
Hell yeah, that's my baby face, baby.
Christian also has a Don't Piss Me Off Jeff Jarrett shirt, the wig, and the Jeff Jarrett
with the WWE logo on the back.
It is a WWE licensed merchandise Don't Piss Me Off t-shirt.
They didn't even like cover up the logo.
Presumably from Jeff Jarrett's personal collection of his own t-shirts.
Well, they weren't selling it on WWEshop.com.
The crowd chant double C as he is in full Jeff Jarrett outfit. Bentley Santa has things to do, which prompts a stuff her stocking chant from the crowd.
Oh, that's creative at least.
Before giving Christian a tiny guitar.
Which is the technical term for the instrument, I'm sure.
A guitarcito?
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Jarrett, Monty come out, brawl. Christian does a little strut and bails before once again JPEGs appear.
Da, 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 da. It's so funny that they're just like a slideshow.
It is just like 3 different Scorpion JPEGs and they go woo and they spin.
You couldn't find like a B-roll of a scorpion.
Or like they do shoot some B-roll of Sting for later in the month, so they do have some Sting footage on like the last 2 impacts.
Well, I get not wanting to actually show Sting, like if that's the bit, but like you can't just like get some B-roll of a scorpion running across the ground.
Go to the local pet shop and actually get a scorpion.
Yeah, you're in Florida. I'm sure you can rent a scorpion.
Put a scorpion on like the top of the ramp and zoom in on a live scorpion.
That'd be sick. It's just like in a small little like case.
Not even in a case, it's just roaming.
Has Sting ever used a live scorpion?
He's used a live crow once.
Yeah, I'd say he's not opposed to the use of live animals.
He's a fan of live birds more than live scorpion.
Doesn't make sense.
I guess birds are scarier than scorpions.
Well, like, it's a crow, I guess.
Like, if you don't see the scorpion coming, the scorpion is scarier, because it can sneak up on you and, like, bite you and sting you stuff.
What's the biggest scorpion?
But, like, if you do see a scorpion coming, it's quite small. You can run away from it quite easily.
9 inches.
It's still quite small.
You could do like a Jake the Snake thing.
It's big enough that if you saw it, you'd freak out. But it's not big enough that, like, if you saw it, you'd be like, I'm trapped.
Yeah, but like, I'm sure there's like, that'd be a great segment, especially in like the 2012 TNA era where it's like Mick Foley in his office and Singh just unleashes a garbage can full of scorpions into the office.
yeah, you raise a good point. It would have to be multiple scorpions. It couldn't just be the one.
And like Foley like jumps up on the desk.
I saw a fucking humongous fox last night.
Mm-hmm.
I was walking up a hill and I just looked to my right and there was like the largest, beefiest fox I've ever seen. And he didn't run away, he just looked at me. And I was like, what?
That seems like that could be very like powerful moment.
And like there's tons of foxes in that area, but they're usually like quite small and they're quite skittish. And that boy was fucking humongous. It looked like he ate 2 of the other foxes.
Did you connect eyes and have a spiritual exchange?
I was more like, look at the size of you. You're so big.
It could have been your spirit animal. You could have gone on a journey of self-discovery.
Sure. But to go back to my scorpions versus birds point,
Birds
are scarier because they can chase you.
A scorpion could chase me.
Not very fast.
You don't know how fast I am or how fast I am not.
I think you're faster than a 9-inch scorpion.
All right, let's set it up. Foot race.
You versus scorpion.
Yeah. I think I could beat any scorpion in a fight.
Yeah, but I think most humans could beat it. Again, unless the scorpion had an element of stealth and could get you from behind. I think most humans could beat a scorpion in a fight. Whereas I would not fancy my chances against every bird.
Okay, here's my battlefield with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's you versus scorpion.
Yeah.
Largest scorpion possible, 9 inches, 2 ounces. You're in a room that's about 5 by 5 meters. No door, nothing else in there. And you don't have shoes.
Ooh, that's interesting. I'd like backsplash it.
Just take a big bump onto it?
Yeah, the big Samoa Joe backsplash.
I'm not sure that would kill it.
It would certainly wound it.
Yeah, but like I feel like you would land on it and it would sting you.
I don't think it would be able to. I think I would crush it too much.
No, I don't think you would.
But if you do the Samoa Joe where you bounce off pretty quick, you would do at least enough damage to
You think you can bounce off pretty quick?
Listen, Samoa Joe's a bigger man than I am. So if he can do it, I can do it.
I don't know. I think the only reason we think we have the advantage over such a large scorpion is due to the prevalence of shoes. And I think in a shoeless environment, we are on the back foot, so to speak. I wouldn't even take on like a 2-inch spider without shoes. I want to touch it.
Is it literally just like the texture of the spider would freak you out?
No, I don't like the idea of even touching it. I need a weapon. Like I need something to use to my advantage. I couldn't like fist fight a spider.
No, you wouldn't have to.
I would be fearful.
You could just flick it.
I guess, but like if it's like 2 inches, that's a big. You gotta put some force into that, and like it'll be looking at you the whole time, and you gotta like try and like, because you can't flick it in the face, because then it could bite you.
It does have many eyes.
Exactly. So like you have to catch it from the side, and then like the whole time you're gonna be fearful that it's gonna like spring out. I'm just saying the logistics of fighting a scorpion or a spider are not as favorable as we may think without the prevalence of feet protection.
But do you still think it's worse than a bird?
Yeah. I'll punch a bird.
Why would you punch a bird but you'd freak out about a spider?
Birds don't scare me.
That's interesting.
I'm assuming in my head it's a crow. Crow, by the way, my favorite bird. So I would feel devastated about having to be in this environment. But you put me in a 5x5 room with a bird, with a crow, I'll throw hands. But a scorpion, nah, that's got too many defensive mechanisms.
Birds have like beaks and wings. They'll freak out
but
on
I'm
you.
just gonna sock it in the face.
Why can't you do that to the scorpion?
Because the scorpion has armor. And has a stinger that can catch me on the way through. Like, what? Okay, so what? Boom. The bird pecks me, grabs on. Boom. Then it's trapped. Then I've got it trapped, and it's just bang, 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 bang. Like, that's easy.
What do you think happens with this? Do you think it goes for like 4 different like precision stings? It stings you once it hangs on, and you can go bang, 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 bang.
Yeah, but then I'm dead. Then I'm paralyzed and dead.
Scorpions are not one-hit KO here.
I think they are. I think anything that has toxin is a one-hit KO.
Okay.
I would forever take the immediate pain of a peck or a claw over the 1 to 2 day process of expelling toxin from my body.
Birds can give you disease too.
Yeah, but it's dead. It's like, I'm fucking left, right, good night,
This is a fascinating exchange.
It flies at me, boom, V trigger.
Why can't you use your knee on the scorpion?
How am I gonna knee a scorpion on the floor?
You literally just drop one.
Oh, and break my knee.
What do you think you're doing?
I'm not Togi Makabe here. I don't have the King Kong knee drop.
Oh dear.
And again, I'm going down on the knee, and it's getting me with a stinger. Ridiculous. I'll take on a bird anytime over something small and venomous.
The main event of the December 24th Impact was Christian Cage against the Wildcat Chris Harris.
Under the assumption that I don't have a shoe.
Where then it changes.
If I have a
everything.
shoe, I'm taking on an arachnid any day.
Storm immediately tries to interfere but gets ejected. Gale's at ringside to help Harris though. Harris tries to use cuffs but Christian reverses into a DDT. Storm runs out, hits Christian with the tag title. Rudy finds the tag title but doesn't know what happened. Christian kicked out. Christian throws Harris into Storm's crotch, hits the Unprettier for the win. Jarrett jumps Christian after the match. Christian looks to bail but Monty jumps him from behind. They destroy Christian and the JPEGs do absolutely nothing to help here. Monty nearly pounces Christian into Gale. The Gale's standing in the corner and Monty pounces him, and Gale has to literally leap out of the way of Christian Cage's body as he is pounced right at her.
Awesome.
And then Jarrett follows with a stroke on the title belt as they pose over Christian Cage's dead body.
Yeah, like, do you think if in a post-match beatdown scenario, if the JPEGs just started playing, they would stop?
They would get very startled by the JPEGs, as illustrated by past experience.
That is wrestling logic.
Every time those JPEGs appear, they are like, what the hell? New Year's Eve, December 31st Impact. There is 2 Impacts that day, as we talked about. There is the regular Impact on I think it's in prime time, so it was 8 p.m. And then later that night at midnight is the special primetime special. So they're teasing a big announcement throughout the show that there will be this huge announcement made at the primetime special. But on the Impact earlier that night, it is Monty Brown and Jeff Jarrett versus the tremendous team of Shark Boy and Kenny King.
Alright, let's think of a pun.
Shark King?
I know, like, sharking was immediately the thing. Like in poker, the sharking?
Yeah.
Or they could be King Shark.
King Shark, do.
King Shark. Alright, you ready for this?
Right.
This is my pitch for their name. The Shark Boy who would be king.
You know what? Perfect.
Yep.
Jackie Gaeta shouts at Jeff Jarrett during his entrance and then threw a slap, but missed. Sharky bites Jarrett in the ass. The crowd chants, Shark Boy's gonna kill you. The crowd would probably be pretty happy if Shark Boy beat Jarrett for the belt.
Wouldn't we all?
Pounce the King, stroke to Shark Boy as Jarrett and Monty win. Sting's music hits, the Scorpion looms.
It looms like we're in a 5x5 room with you and you weren't wearing shoes.
Investigative journalist Don West is like, I want to know what's the deal with this Jackie Gaeta nonsense. So he goes backstage, finds Jackie as she's been kicked out. Jackie denies it being a lover's quarrel and says that Jarrett didn't keep her word. Jackie explains the situation that she gave up a career to accept Jarrett's job offer, but then she saw Gail Kim showing up on TV instead. But she has a secret, and demands Jarrett gives her the money he promised her, or she will reveal his secret.
And everyone is on the edge of their seats waiting for this reveal.
Main event of that episode of Impact is the Cowboy James Storm versus Jeff Jarrett. The important part for this story is after the match, there's a bunch of run-ins and saves and stuff, and then Christian makes the ultimate save and then says, come back at midnight for our big announcement. We'll talk about the match itself when we're talking about the X division? Or tag division. Which brings us... Yes. Which brings us to the first episode of Impact of 2006. Literally, as the clock strikes midnight, Christian Cage counts us down. There's a fun note about this. The idea was Christian was supposed to do a 10-second promo and the clock would pretend there was 20 seconds left in the year. And he'd count down 10, 9, 8, so on and so forth. Anyway, he twice forgot his 10-second promo and started counting down anyway. And got to 0 with 10 seconds left on the clock. This led to a loud "you fucked up" chant. He made a remark, "What do you want? I'm Canadian." Because apparently Canadians can't count to 10 on the new year.
Well, they can count to 10, they can't count down from 10.
That's true, and they can't leave a 10-second gap until they start counting. That's just too much information to process.
Yeah.
But we do get the groundbreaking announcement that TNA makes it official that Sting is the newest member of the TNA roster. And Christian's like, whoa, Mike, I got some more news. And Mike's like, you one-upping me? And I'm like, I'm one-upping you. He announces that the main event of Final Resolution will be him and Sting versus Monty Brown and Jeff Jarrett. Jarrett comes out, crowd chant boring again, as Jarrett does the same promo over and over again. Like, every time he comes out, the crowd chant boring. It's so funny. Christian challenged Jarrett to fight him there and then. Jarrett takes great offense to being called slapnuts, even though there's a little bit of shirt. Monty runs out, Rhino makes the save, AMW runs out, 3D makes the save, brawl. Nice. What do we got here? Nothing.
Me watching a TNA show.
The January 7th show ends with Jeff Jarrett doing his personal tribute to Sting. Because through this show, there was a bunch of video packages. I think there was Chris Sabin, Sanjay Dutt, a couple others, Christian as well, talking about like little talking head spots about what Sting means to them. Some of them said basically nothing.
Then the fans.
And the fans, there was some fans that they loved the Scorpion Death Drop and the Scorpion Deathlock and the Stinger Splash.
They're all great moves, to be fair.
Great move names as well.
Yeah.
But here, Jarrett is like, we've had all those tributes to Sting throughout the show. I have mine.
This is some classic TNA comedy right here.
Eric Young comes out as Surfer Sting.
Great.
Chris Harris comes out as Crow Sting, which is actually fun because Harris actually played a fake Sting at Halloween Havoc 2000.
Wow. Well, he looks the part.
He does. You do look at it. It's like, that is a good Crow Sting, and I get why they used you as a fake Sting in WCW.
And then he had Sting's actual music.
Yeah, it is funny. Like, anytime there's a tease of Sting this month, they play the TNA Sting theme. You know, whenever the JPEGs appear, the TNA Sting theme appears.
Can you please recreate it right now?
I can't. It's a weird song.
Come on, do it.
No.
All right.
I'm literally trying to like form the sounds in my head, and I can't. For some reason, I keep going back to Rhino's
content
song.
for the people.
See, I for some reason I drift toward Rhino's theme. When you do it like that, it drifts towards Rhino. It upsets me.
I know, so it's funny.
There's a chicken in a chicken suit playing a crow. Because I guess they couldn't find a crow suit.
Or maybe they're calling him a chicken.
And TNA has to fill in that gap because one, he explains it's James Storm that's in the suit, and the other he's like, a chicken? I guess that's meant to be a crow. And then the highlight for me personally, we had Surfer Sting, we had Crow Sting, but Monty Brown comes out as Real Estate Steve.
Which is like it's something that we get with the context of having seen certain Alex Shelley promos and such. But it's like how many people knew this?
Yeah, he comes out like wearing a visor, wearing a polo shirt, wearing some tight shorts.
He's doing whiteface.
Listen, they're all doing Sting face.
Wow.
He comes out with a buggy or a stroller if you're in America. The idea that do you call it a stroller there too?
Yeah.
It's a buggy here.
That's lame. That's so stupid.
Oh, because stroller is such a wonderful word.
Yeah, stroller's awesome. Tell you what, I could kill a crow with a stroller.
Could you kill a scorpion with one though?
Yes. Any weapon. Give me any weapon.
What if you had like a pencil?
You know, I'd feel more confident. Yeah, because then I could like pin down the tail and punch it to death.
Okay. You couldn't do that with your fingers?
No, because then my fingers are in striking distance.
They're still in striking distance even if you have a pencil.
Or I could get it to like get its claws on the pencil and like then it's distracted.
So the idea is Monty is domesticated Sting.
I'm not gonna beat any animals to death. I feel like I should clarify. I never would. I love animals too much. If anyone would do it, it's Garrett because he has a callous relationship with animals.
They're evil monsters. That fox wanted to get me.
No, he was your spirit animal trying to guide you.
Monty is like old man Sting, retired Sting. He's no longer a wrestler Sting. He starts speaking to the baby in Monty Brown voice.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, goo goo gaga Sting. I love Monty.
Sting is a Pokemon.
He is.
Only uses his name.
Jarrett mentions that Sting no longer listens to Toby Keith, but Kerry Underwood, which I think he's traded up, frankly.
Fucking owned.
Monty says, that's how we stroll, as he strolls the stroller, because it's Christian's catchphrase. Mike Tenay explains that joke. He's like, you want to see how we roll, not how we stroll. Christian comes out and says they look stupid, to which Monty responds, this is entertainment.
We've looked at the statistics, and this is what the fans want.
Yeah, we've done a controlled focus group where the match before this was Austin Aries, Roderick Strong, and Alex Shelley versus AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, and Chris Sabin. So they were like, do these people want this X Division action, or do they want these antics and skits? To
be fair, if the AEW antics and skits were this good, I'd be into it.
That is like the biggest thing that I think people miss in like talking about the last 6 months of AEW, where they're like they present it very rigidly as sports entertainment versus pro wrestling, which it kind of is, but they miss the bigger issue in that like it's bad. It's just bad. Like, it's not that you cannot do a good version of Timeless Tony Storm. It's that the version of Timeless Tony Storm they're doing is a bad one-note act.
Yeah.
But here, you have Monty Brown dressed as Old Man Sting making baby noises.
Yeah, if they committed like half as hard to that character as they do to this, it'd be great.
So, Christian and 3D come out, clear a house, they have everybody but the chicken, and they throw the chicken out of the ring, but Abyss appears, Abyss and Rhino brawl, but Abyss gets dropped to the gore.
Classic Abyss.
Jeff Jarrett's tribute to Sting, which aired on this episode, was heavily edited after airing. The tribute was kept as the final segment of the show, but just lasted just over 5 minutes. Chants of boring greeted Jarrett as soon as he began the tribute. However, other derogatory chants were edited out as approximately 75% of the segment was chopped out.
TNA social media team, release the full cut.
Release the Monty Brown cut.
Release it.
I want to see all the versions of Sting.
Do it.
I wonder, do we have that tape? Probably don't.
We have to get into contact with people in the know.
We have to find the people who were in the building that day and rebuild it from their memories using some sci-fi technology.
Yes, we'll AI the segment.
Out of their brain and into real life.
God, we should never take things out of wrestling fans' brains and bring them into real life.
No, you would get some monstrous things. Some things you could not defeat in a 5x5 room.
Well, if I had shoes.
The Go Home Show, January 14th. We reveal our end of year awards on this show. There are only one related to.
We don't reveal ours.
Well, no, we don't reveal ours. Ours will be on Patreon in the next couple of weeks. Who to watch in 2006 went to Christian Cage.
Okay.
Great. When we do that award now, which, by the way, most of the award categories we do now are actually based on these when I put them back together. We started doing awards in 2018. I started doing most of these awards. I think Finisher has been dropped since. But these are the award categories that I was like, we need to carry these forward. So that's if you're ever wondering why it's specifically X Division Star of the Year, that's what it was in these set of awards. That same award went to Mike Bailey last night as we record this. But
yeah, please give the 2023 versions of these awards.
Knockout of the Year went to Jackie Gaeta. In 2023 it went to Trinity. Finisher of the Year went to the Canadian Destroyer. We don't run that one anymore.
Who would you give it to in 2023?
Who would get the Impact Finisher of the Year? Maybe like ABC. I like the 1-2 Sweet as a finish.
The Bailey move.
Ultimate Weapon is always a good one. Yeah. So who to watch in 2006 went to Christian Cage. 2023 went to Kylan King. Fun fact, she won by 1 vote.
Did you vote in these awards, Garrett?
No. I'm unbiased. She beat Jake.
That was a suspicious no.
She beat Jake something by a single vote. So every vote matters. Tag Team of the Year went to Team 3D. It went to ABC in 2023. Memorable Moment of the Year went to Christian's debut. It went to the announcement of the return of TNA in 2023.
Makes sense.
X Division Star of the Year, AJ, Mike Bailey in 2023. Food of the Year, We Don't Run. And Match of the Year went to Barbed Wire Massacre here and went to Will Ospreay versus Mike Bailey in 2023. So there you go.
Who was Mr. TNA?
Alex Shelley, I guess. It was Male Wrestler of the Year, we call that now. But
There you go.
so Franchise has Jackie Gata asks her about the letter. She delivered a letter to Jeff Jarrett last week being like, these are my secrets. I have secrets. Jackie says this is between her and Jarrett. The letter lists her demands. D'Amore walks up and pitches working together. It's like, we can't meet these demands. Come on. She's like, meet my demands.
D'Amore has such a weird energy in these segments lately.
He's trying to talk down Jackie Gata.
But like, even in the segments without, like, he feels like browbeaten.
He doesn't like doing Jarrett's dirty work, you see.
I guess. He normally loves doing Jarrett's dirty work.
He's very worried about what Jackie Gata could have.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But because like it's never actually revealed, which is the big thing. What did Jackie Gata? It's very obvious what she has. The idea is she has proof of what happened with controversy in Canada. Like she has like the paper trail of what happened there.
But we all know that's what happened.
But like the idea that like TNA management was in on it, which is the reason Larry Z was like so vehemently against Jackie Gata as well. He's trying to kick her out of the building at every turn. The idea is like she has the proof of like the actual collusion that led to Jeff Jarrett winning and Raven losing. I think that's like what they were going for here. They never actually reveal it because Jackie Gata just disappears eventually.
We have to use our contacts and find out. Coming soon to the Patreon scoops. What was Jackie Gata threatening Jeff Jarrett with?
It was that, though. It was that. They're not like subtle about it.
We're gonna sell Patreons.
It was very clearly that, but that's the reason D'Amore is very worried about it as well as Jarrett.
Rents due, goddammit.
There's a sit-down interview with Jarrett and Monty. Same stuff. They're not scared of Sting. Conspiracy. Main event of that episode is Rhino and Christian Cage versus America's Most Wanted.
Which sounds cool.
It was a pretty good TV main. I liked AMW had 2 TV matches this month. I thought both of them were pretty good. And the finish of the pay-per-view match is hilarious. So Chris Harris briefly turns into Kurt Angle and hits like a full overhead belly to belly to Christian to the floor. I'm like, where's that Chris Harris been?
I don't know. He's been busy being Sting, I guess.
Christian goes for the unprettier, but Gale kicks him in the balls. Christian kicks out. 3D run out and deal with Gale. 3D neckbreaker Harris. Rhino gore Storm. Christian frog splashes Harris for the win. Monty and Abyss run out. Crowd chants "We want Sting." Monty pounces Christian. Jarrett hits him with the guitar, but the JPEGs appear. This time we hear from Sting. Sting's voice appears as he calls Jarrett the Queen of the Hill and Monty the alpha female. And then says it's showtime at Final Resolution. So
You get it, because he called them women.
He did call them women. He really put them down.
Sting's first TNA words after being signed were sexist.
Prefer the JPEGs.
Yeah, the JPEGs never were problematic.
Yeah, they were wholesome. That brings us to the pay-per-view. So there are 2 backstage promos, one from Jarrett, one from Christian. And Jarrett and Monty's one basically is like, that Christian guy, awful habit of turning on people, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's not a good partner.
Yeah, he turned on Edge, turned on Chris Jericho. Huh, can you trust that guy? Do you think you can trust that guy? And then Christian does a backstage promo being like, you can trust me. We all hate Monty and Jarrett, you can trust me. So that does bring us to the main event, which is the return of Sting as a full-timer to a wrestling company for the first time in 5 years. Obviously, he did some dates in both WWA and TNA in between. But this is the return of Sting as a full-timer as he teams with Christian Cage to face Jeff Jarrett and Monty Brown.
I mean, it's definitely cool to see Sting here. He is a star, he is a name, and, you know, crowd's into it, everyone's into it, I'm into it. Good stuff to have Sting here. And also, you know, the beginning of the run, that is the thing I associate with Sting the most ever.
Yeah, TNA guy to you.
Yeah, to me. Fully TNA guy. I hope his retirement match he comes out to his TNA music.
Or they do like the Great Muta thing where they do like the history of TNA, or the history of Sting themes, and they include the TNA theme.
Yes, that is such a great idea. Like, what a perfect way for like a giant star like that. And the thing is, you've already done the Metallica thing, so it's like, you gotta one up it somehow.
And yeah, I like that. That was so cool. And I love like hearing the pops for the more recognizable themes.
Yeah, I liked that they were like, all right, 9 seconds of final countdown.
Yeah, we don't want to either go broke. I don't think they licensed it, or it's like we want it to fall as within fair use as we possibly can.
It was a lot shorter than the rest of them. It was like da 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 da.
So Sting comes out, as we said, he doesn't come out to the TNA Sting theme. He comes out to this weird, like, fake Down with the Sickness song. It's very bad.
Heavy shot at Monty Brown, who also uses that fake Down with the Sickness song.
That's true. Yeah, this dumb, boring butt rock song was the Sting theme. I was like, nope, that's not the Sting theme. I don't think he ever uses that again either. I think they were very much like, oh, that didn't work.
Yeah.
I thought Sting looked great, like, because I think he's something like 48 here. He's late 40s anyway. And I thought he looked really good. He looked in good shape. He has the advantage of having face paint, so he doesn't look old, which I think is why every wrestler should have face paint, so you can wrestle until you're 63 and you don't look old.
Yeah.
It's funny, like, he got in the ring, he hit a hip toss, hit a drop kick, and then he got the "You Still Got a Chance," which, like, people can correct me if I'm mistaken. I think this is the origin of the "You Still Got a" chant.
Yeah. I mean, like, unless there was, like, some WWE legend thing.
I don't think there was. I think this is the first time there was a "You Still Got a" chant, which is, like, fucking WWE chants just chanted it for fans, just chanted it for CM Punk.
Which is hilarious.
It's a very, very, very good bit.
I was like 50% of that MSG crowd not even knowing that he wrestled this year.
I was watching a Drew McIntyre promo on Twitter, and he did a good bit where he's like, CM Punk looked pretty good for his first match in 10 years, and then gave like a little knowing glance at the camera. It's like, oh, yeah, chanting "You Still Got It" for CM Punk is a good bit. Like, there is, like, was it when
wrestling in front of 80,000 people this year?
Yeah, when Jay Lethal left TNA and went back to Ring of Honor in 2011, he got "You Still Got a Chance."
That's a good one, because that's a passive-aggressive one.
It is. There is, that is a loaded "You Still Got It" chant, but it is funny how that chant has evolved. Because, like, it does make sense here. Like, Sting hasn't been on TV regularly for 5 years. Like, and he is old. So, like, it is like, yeah, hell yeah, you still got it. I do like how Don mentions on commentary how Sting wanted to come back so he could go out in his own terms in 2024.
After cutting the same promo with the same point in AEW.
Yeah, 18 years later, after this return match, Sting is finally retired.
And it's going to be Christian Cage and Sting versus Jeff Jarrett and Monty Brown.
That match would be awesome.
They do have 3/4 of it.
And Monty should win. So, like, yeah, they build that story that we were talking about into the match, that there's dissension between these two, or they not necessarily dissension, but can they trust each other? So they're all fine, happy, getting along for most of it. Christian hits some stinger splashes, but Gale's distraction allows Jarrett to get the heat on Christian after a low blow. Gale also hits an awesome Hurricane Rana off the apron on Christian. It's nice when Gale gets to actually wrestle and not just shout at Jeff Jarrett backstage.
Yeah, because she's very good.
Sting gets the hot tag, hits some stinger splashes, ref gets bumped. Sting gets a phantom submission on Jarrett with the Scorpion Deathlock. Christian saves Sting from a Monty belt shot. Sting picks up the belt and then backs into Christian. And then they're like, whoa, you gonna hit me? You gonna hit me, bro? You gonna hit me with that belt? He doesn't. Team Canada run out, but Sting and Christian took them out with their respective reverses DDTs. The Scorpion Death Drop and Christian's like fallout reverse DDT.
Sting's is better.
I kind of like Christian's.
I mean, Christian's is like good, but like Sting's is better.
Jarrett got a belt shot, but Sting kicked out.
I remembered something like from my backyard wrestling days.
Okay.
The first bump I ever took in a ring was after taking a stinger splash, and then I went out and did the Flair face bump. Not ever having taken a bump in a ring before. Fucking hurt so bad.
Yeah, like face first bumps aren't pleasant, even when you know what you're doing.
Knocked the complete wind out of my I mean, looked good, let's be real, but hurt like a son of a bitch.
I like the way you're like, looked like $1 million. I was a pro, but
yeah. Because like I because at that point you don't know how much it hurts the first time you take it, so I just threw my whole body. Like I fully like kicked my legs out, like as like so it was as like powerful as possible, and I fucking died.
Oh, you were like full like the way Eric Young would take that bump.
Yeah, like that's exactly like full swing my leg forward and back to get as much momentum as possible in it.
Oh dear.
I think I took it about 75% right, but 25% of it was not right, and that was enough to fuck me up.
I think that's the story of your backyard career.
Yeah, pretty much.
Jarrett tried to use a guitar, but Sting smashed it with a baseball bat. Bat shot to the gut. Scorpion death drop. Sting pins Jarrett, which is interesting.
He couldn't talk his way out of that one.
What's more interesting is like Sting got a visual submission on Jarrett in the match too, which you would have thought was Jarrett's excuse for not losing. It's like I'll give him a visual submission and Monty can take the fall, but Jarrett takes the fall too.
I think even Jarrett knows.
Yeah, and they do have to set up Sting and Jarrett as the match. And I think Jarrett knows that if he sets that up as the match, he has to be champion for the year and he gets to have the big match with Sting.
Yeah.
So it is a thing that seems on its surface generous, but in truth is actually also selfish because Jarrett knows then it kind of has to be him and Sting.
Perfect. The greatest worker of all time.
Legitimately, Monty Brown working with Sting is a big deal, as when Brown was growing up, he had photos of Sting on his wall as one of his big sports heroes, as Brown was a bigger wrestling fan growing up than he was a football fan. When he played in the 1994 Super Bowl game as a member of the Buffalo Bills at the Georgia Dome, during that week he made sure to go to Main Event Fitness because he wanted to meet Sting.
That's so sweet.
Even as like a man about to play in a Super Bowl, he's still like, can I meet Sting? I want to meet Sting.
That's he's a little stinger.
He is a little stinger, so Monty working with Sting was probably a highlight of his career.
All right, Garrett, I'm going to propose a question to you.
Go for it.
5x5 room.
Mm-hmm.
You and Sting.
What era Sting we talking about?
Modern day, but you don't have shoes.
I could take Sting.
You could take Sting?
I think Sting is one of those guys who I'm like, even Prime Sting, I'm pretty confident I could take Sting.
You could not take Prime Sting.
You take down Sting. All show, no go.
He's like 3 times as big as you.
Yeah, he has muscles, but all show, no go. I could take Sting.
You could take Sting?
He doesn't strike me as a fighter, you see.
He gets the bat.
Oh, he kicked my ass if he has a bat.
Modern day, but he gets the bat.
It's probably too slow. I could take him. But like, really, like Sting is one of those guys who's like, he doesn't strike me as like, and then I don't think he's ever projected himself as a guy who's actually tough, because I don't think he is.
Yeah. All right, everyone, bring that out to the sheets. Garrett does not think Sting is tough ever.
I could beat him in a fight. I could kick his ass.
All right.
Don't back down. Double down. All right, let's head on.
I think you could probably double leg take down him when he's like young.
Yeah.
Too top heavy.
He's too muscular. He's all muscle. He's a bodybuilder. Bodybuilders can kick like I'm not a fighter, but I think I could take down most bodybuilders.
But he's like an athletic bodybuilder.
Still a bodybuilder though.
Open challenge been thrown out there by Garrett.
Me versus any bodybuilder.
Yeah.
I guess we'll head over to Abyss and Rhino.
Of course.
Which is another one of the heavyweight feuds of the month.
It sure was another one.
Rhino on the December 17th Impact has a squash match against the debuting Joe Doring.
Which is fun to see.
Yeah, he looks so weird here.
Yeah, he does not have any of his... Like, I was watching this and I was like, man, this guy's going to be a great Triple Crown champion one day. Just like Charlie Dempsey.
Oh. You watch some people and you see them being like, you see their presence through their whole career, you know? You see who they are even when they're younger. And you watch Joe Doring here and you're like, how did that man turn into that?
Yeah, it took time.
You're like, God, there's nothing there here. He's just a guy who squashed on TV. You're not like, oh, look at that guy. That's impressive. He's just a guy.
And when did he really start picking up in Old Japan? Like 2015? Like the Go Shiozaki stuff.
Early to mid 2010s, yeah.
But then honestly, like he didn't really like peak until like 2017 with like the Miyahara stuff. So it's like that took a long time for him to like really get it. Like another decade.
Yeah, shows. Keep working.
Also, if anyone hasn't seen Joe Doring Old Japan stuff, please watch it. Like his stuff is what got me back into that company in the mid 2050. Like him and Miyahara, like those two guys, so good. And then I'm obviously it was very exciting to see him come back to TNA.
Yeah.
Hopefully everything goes good with his recovery and we get to see him again.
Hope so. Here he's just been squashed on TV. He debuted actually on a pay-per-view pre-show, but this is the first time we're seeing. Don mentions that Doring was one of the early TNA Academy guys. So if you remember, they were mentioning like the Academy at the Asylum and all that stuff. Apparently, Joe Doring is one of those guys. Rhino wins with a gore. They seem to like have an internal war about whether he's called the War Machine or the Man Beast here.
Yeah.
Because
are you a Man Beast guy or a War Machine guy?
I kind of like War Machine.
I like War Machine too.
But maybe it's just because it's his TNA nickname. But I like War Machine.
I like War Machine more. One thing I thought was good here was like they were talking about how he's like a baby Team Canada guy. And then like the whole point being that Rhino's going to start running through Team Canada. So, like, they started off with, like, the Team Canada young boy.
Yeah, after the match, Rhino does cut a promo being like, I want to go through Team Canada and get to goring D'Amore.
Which obviously ends in Abyss.
There was a promo earlier on that show. It was actually right before the Rhino and Joe Doring match, where franchise has a bitch.
Here's a bitchin'.
That is not the first time I've accidentally called Abyss a bitch.
Franchise has a bitchin' promo.
Franchise has Abyss and James Mitchell. They show Abyss's scars from Barbed Wire Massacre, and they're trying. It's interesting. They're trying to like pitch Abyss as a top contender, even though he spent like the entirety of the last month losing.
All Abyss does is get his ass kicked.
Because he lost to Sabu, he lost to Jeff Hardy, and he lost to Rhino last month. So
Like, really, all he does is get his ass kicked.
But now he has overcome his fears. They particularly focus on Rhino. D'Amore walks in with a business proposal for Mitchell. So the reason we pivot from Rhino going after Team Canada to Abyss is because D'Amore has recruited Abyss to take out Rhino. He's struck a deal with Father James.
Struck a deal with a bitch.
December 31st Impact. Rhino faces A1.
Yes, Johnny Devine back again.
Rhino wins with the gore. D'Amore hits him with a hockey stick after the match. As Rhino was about to get his hands on D'Amore, Abyss jumped him and chokeslammed him. And then, it's funny, because they were doing the New Year's segment later, people in the crowd had kazoos.
I think they're just Christian fans.
They might just be Christian fans, you're not wrong. So as Abyss was beating up Rhino, they were just blowing their kazoos. As D'Amore and Mitchell shake hands.
I feel like all Abyss feuds the exact same thing.
He just fights people?
Like, he calls it, like, there's like, something happens, gets called out, whatever. He beats him up 1 week and then proceeds to get his ass kicked for the rest of the feud.
Yeah, he gets the heat on them once. Like, he'll hit him with a black hole slam, and then they will relentlessly beat the shit out of him.
And then the entire build-up, they'll beat him up, and then at the pay-per-view, they'll beat him up. And then, boom, next pay-per-view cycle starts off with a post-pay-per-view squash against some nerd.
These two are like on the opposite sides of lots of brawls. Oh, the Go Home show, there's an Abyss squash over Jay Lethal.
Who is signed.
Yes, we'll talk about that a little more with the Samoa Joe match, because I think that match is funnier. But yeah, Abyss beats Jay Lethal with the rare double rotation black hole slam.
The even blacker hole slam.
Yeah, that creates even more of an empty void. But there's no actual development toward the Rhino match there. Basically, they brawl a bunch. They're like a bunch of the segments where they're running out and brawling, where there's a lot of Planet Jarrett running out and brawling. Rhino and Abyss are on either side of that as well.
They're a part of the big schmozzes that no one cares about.
So, pay-per-view match, Abyss and Rhino, it kinda sucked.
Yeah, and it's such disappointment coming off of the, like, really great Abyss Sabu stuff.
Yeah, it was kind of slow. It was kind of plotting. They didn't really do much. And that's it. It's just kind of a boring pay-per-view match.
I think it's probably because there was no plunder.
Yeah, they do have a Falls Count Anywhere match. I think it's next month, which I remember being a lot better.
I remember because, like, don't they do the gore through, like, the like staging?
No, that's in the build-up to that match. They gore him through the wall.
Yeah, that's cool.
But the finish of the pay-per-view match is he gores him out of the stands.
Oh, yeah.
So I hope that match doesn't suck. I'll be disappointed if I go back to that match and that match sucks. But yeah, this match is there's just nothing. It's just two big guys who are working a relatively slow pace. They're doing a little plunder. There's like chairs involved and chairs in the corner and DQs not being DQ'd for some reason.
It's so funny. Like, they do like the little bits of like the chair stuff, and then it's like just like in front of the referee.
And then the funnier part is Mitchell then distracts the referee when Abyss is going for a chain shot. It's like, you just hit him with a chair in front of him.
Yeah, there was no need for any of that at this point.
Rhino looks for the Rhino driver, which would have been a cool thing to hit on Abyss.
Yeah.
But James Mitchell grabs his leg, causing a distraction, allowing Abyss to hit a black hole slam onto a chair for the win. Very disappointing.
Abyss getting his, like, much like he gets his one, like, beat up, his one win in these feuds.
Yeah, so he can lose next month.
Yeah, twice. Well, he get beat up once on TV and then lose.
The other, quote-unquote, major thing happening in the heavyweight division is the continued saga of Larry Zbyszko and Raven.
Of course, we finally get the reveal about Raven's girlfriend.
Yeah, there's a note that it was apparently meant to be, or at least they were thinking about it being Christy Hemme.
Interesting.
But also, it goes absolutely nowhere and is completely dropped.
Yeah.
December 17th, Impact. Franchise has Larry. He asks him about Raven, because Larry lost his cool at the pay-per-view. He's like, I won't lose my cool again. I am once again booking Raven versus an opponent of my choosing at the pay-per-view. If Raven wins, he will finally get his NWA World title shot he's been asking for, but if he loses, he will leave TNA forever.
will never come back.
The December 24th episode has a feature on Larry and Raven. There's a lot more butt rock on these shows, by the way.
Yeah, they got the big Spike budget now.
Yeah, they have the money for music.
To pay these artists an exposure.
And then on the Go Home show, there's also a feature on Raven and his woes. So there's not real much build to this. Like, Larry is hovering...
They've already done the build to this, to be fair.
Yeah, Larry is hovering around doing, like, Planet Jarrett stuff for the most part for the month, but he still has this little Raven side issue going on. So franchise has Larry at Final Resolution. He appears to be in, like, an attic of some sort with a bunch of candles.
Which, again, I always find incredibly funny to think of Raven, like, setting them all up.
Raven being like, you know what, we have to have a mood for this interview. We can't just come out and talk, franchise. We have to set the tone.
Yeah.
He says that wrestling is the one thing that keeps him from blowing his brains out, and it's very upsetting that Larry Z keeps trying to take it from him.
I would be upset too.
That is not me paraphrasing him. He was like, this is the only thing that stops me from blowing my brains out.
And then he said, and I'm very upset with Larry for trying to take that away.
Yeah. Raven wonders whether his destiny will give him one last title run, or whether it's a ladder into oblivion.
Okay.
So Raven's mystery opponent this month is the returning Sean Waltman.
X-Pac. They're here to have a worse match than last time.
It is worse. They had a much better match, was it at Hard Justice last year? But it is still quite a funny match, so I do approve of it.
Yeah. This is like more your WWF mid-card hardcore title style.
Yeah, this is what I would call a shopping cart match, and not in a metaphorical sense, because you could be like...
And I would call it a shopping trolley match.
Ooh. I would also call it a shopping trolley. It's the Americans' influence on me. But it's not good like in a metaphorical sense, like a shopping trolley, because you'd bring it into a shop and bring like lots of different parts into the shopping trolley. So it's a mixed blunder. Not metaphorical, completely literal. They use a shopping cart a lot.
Which was like the Raven shtick of the time.
Yeah, so there's a lot of running
And
shopping
Tom
carts into people's heads. There is my favorite part is Raven puts Waltman into a shopping cart at the top of the ramp and goes to run the shopping cart off the stage onto the floor, but he does it in a way that the trolley tips up and Waltman kind of falls out of it as it falls off the stage, lands ass first on the stage, and then bounces onto the floor in a way that probably hurt a lot more than would have if he was just dumped off the stage.
This is why I imagine happening whenever I'm on like a night out and my friends are like, get in the shopping trolley. And I'm like, no.
This is how it will go wrong. You should show them this clip. It's like, this is how
And then
this
they'll
can go wrong.
get in the shopping trolley.
So ref gets bumped on a missed clothesline, visual pin on the Raven effect. Larry takes over as referee. Waltman hits a low blow and an X Factor, but Raven kicks out. Waltman misses a Bronco Buster onto a ladder. Don starts getting mad at the cadence of Larry's counts. He says, I had 2 birthdays before he got that count in. Got him. Waltman X Factors Raven off a ladder through a table for the win, even though Raven got his foot in the rope, but Larry missed it. And I do appreciate like the way they did it. It was like, it wasn't like that Larry obviously deliberately missed it. Like Larry did have the plausible deniability of being on the other side of the pin and not seeing it. It wasn't the case that Larry looked at it, saw it, and still counted. So I kind of appreciate that more from the storytelling point of view, where he could be like, I did miss it. I actually missed it.
I think it's more like he's so hyper-focused on making this guy lose than like I'm actively screwing him in this moment.
So Raven is now gone from TNA. Cassidy Riley comes out. He's all sad. He's like, this is bullshit. Raven is like, no, stand down.
This is not bullshit.
He leaves with security. He seems to accept his fate. As Don, he's walking past the announce desk, and Don's just like, you got robbed! You got robbed! And pats him on the back.
Don is a ride or die, and we can all respect that.
And as a note in the Wrestling Observer, the Raven girlfriend storyline has been totally dropped, but at one point it was talked about for Christy Hemme.
Such a weird combination of people.
So we go to the announce desk as they're kind of reinforcing, which I do appreciate that they do spend like 2 minutes of Tenay and West talking at the table about, wow, Raven is gone. They don't just fully to the back it. Well, they do. They go to Truth and then they come back to this. But at least they come back to settle in this moment. Because like Raven is the former world champion. He's like the number 3 star in this company for the prior 3 years, I guess, behind AJ and Jarrett. So like
a 2-time wrestler of the year.
Yeah. So like I do appreciate how they did at least treat Raven being gone as a big deal, even if Tenay was like, he actively reminded us, like, remember what he said in that interview beforehand? That like this is the only thing stopping him from killing himself.
Yeah.
It's like, is he gonna kill himself? So,
yeah.
So the tease of this story is that Raven is going to kill himself because he lost this match to Sean Waltman.
Nice to put Sean Waltman over too on this one-time appearance.
Yeah, Waltman never comes back.
Well, he does. He does come back.
Well, yeah, he goes back in 2010, but he doesn't come back in this run. This is the last we'll see of Sean Waltman for 4 years.
Yeah.
He wasn't in as good shape as he was last year, and he did, like, this match was fine, but it wasn't nearly as good as the match he had with Raven in May last year, so.
Well, that was also cooler. It was just a cooler match, and they did crazier shit.
Oh, the finish of that match is so good when he back body dropped him into the cage wall, and the cage wall fell down.
It was perfect.
And that spot where Raven just walks him up the ramp and fucks him off the stage.
Yeah.
So good. Larry is also seeing Raven out. Jackie Gator comes up and says both her and Raven have been screwed, and it's a lot bigger than Raven thinks. Surely she should be like, I have the proof about how there was collusion about you being screwed. Surely, like Raven, she should be like, hey, you, we need to talk.
She should have done that like 4 weeks ago.
She should have been on Raven's side all along. Raven would have appreciated an ally. Maybe they could have just made Jackie Gator the woman in his life.
That would have made a lot of sense.
Tie those two stories together.
But then they'd have to do something with Raven.
Or Jackie Gator. That takes us over to the X Division, starting with the X Division Championship match, which is Samoa Joe versus Christopher Daniels. On the first Impact of the month, Samoa Joe faces a debuting Jay Lethal.
In a sweet match.
I love this match. I find this match so funny. Because if you watch any of Joe's other TV squashes, he eats these people alive.
Yeah.
Like, he does not give them, like, watch, like, the Red match or the Delirious match or anybody else he just destroys on TV. He absolutely kills them. They might get, like, the smallest hint of a hope spot that he shuts down immediately and he wins in 2 minutes. Versus this match, where he is wrestling his friend, Jay Lethal.
Yeah, and I like that they gave it an out, though.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that, like, he was real banged up from the match at the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So, like, they gave it a reason, which I appreciate, but, like, it's so blatant.
Samoa Joe would like his friend to have a job.
Yeah.
So he sells way more than you ever would for Jay Lethal. Like, he bumps for a leg sweep, he bumps for an arm drag, he bumps for a leg lariat. He gets, like, for Jay Lethal in Lethal's TV debut as a complete nobody.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
But it works.
It does work. He is ultimately signed to a deal. So it is very charming that Joe gave him this and helped him get a deal. It's nice to see Joe do that for his boy, even if his boy is Jay Lethal.
We have some good years of Jay Lethal.
Joe wins with the Muscle Buster and the Coquina Clutch. December 24th, Impact, Christopher Daniels faces Eric Young.
They sure do.
Yeah, this was a match that was a little weird. They were, like, on different pages.
You would think these two would be, like, in sync.
NSYNC?
Yeah, you think they'd be NSYNC.
Dance routine.
In the new Trolls movie.
Why is that movie?
Because they've reached a point with that franchise that now it has become we can slap the branding and make any old shite. It's like Despicable Me, but a tenth of the success.
And then you'll check and it made like $800 million.
I'm gonna check it right now. I'm only comparing it like... that was not me digging on the Trolls. It was more me digging on how much money Despicable Me makes.
It does make a lot of money. It is a very successful franchise.
Apparently the second Trolls movie was also musical themed. So, Anna Kendrick is the main troll.
What a sentence.
Made $347 million on a $125 million budget.
So they're doing okay.
Which I would imagine went mostly to the cast.
And the music licensing, probably.
And the second one, Trolls Band Together. No, Trolls World Tour. Trolls Bound Together is... I was going to say, Anna Kendrick isn't even in this one, but she is. Fucking dogged it. The second one did not do well.
The second one was like a COVID release, though, wasn't it? It was VOD as well as theaters.
Yes.
It was
limited number of theaters.
And I actually think it was one of those that was like one of the original big streaming hits in COVID because it was a Trolls movie and kids were desperate for anything.
Yeah. And Kelly Clarkson was there.
Since You've Been Gone, etc.
Yep.
That was Kelly Clarkson, wasn't it?
Yeah, that wasn't Kelly Clarkson. That was the song. Did they even have that in this? Kelly Clarkson was like, "Listen, I'm in the movie, but you're not getting me. You're not getting my big track without some money."
Yeah.
You can sing. You can sing Born to Die.
Ah, that's my favorite Kelly Clarkson song.
Yeah.
So before this Daniels EY match, Daniels does do a promo. He's returned tonight. He has Joe at Final Resolution. He's like, I will shatter Joe's aura of invincibility. So Daniels returned, if you remember, a turning point after the match. He ran off Joe, but then one headbutt caused his brain to go, woo.
He goes, woo.
Yeah, so Shannon Moore is here.
Unfortunately.
Both this and there's a match we'll talk about when we're talking about one of the other X Division things, but on the show prior as well. Shannon Moore is standing atop the stage with a sign that says the X Division needs to get punked.
Ashton Kutcher?
No, he's the Prince of Punk.
Ashton Kutcher.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yes.
So, yeah.
Isn't he cancelled now?
Is he? What did he do?
I think he's just like a weird celebrity guy.
Good weird celebrity guy or bad
Oh
weird
no,
celebrity guy?
I remember what he was cancelled for. All of the like Mila Kunis is 16 in these clips things. And him being like an abject pervert to her in like interviews and such.
Cool.
Yeah. And then he married her.
So yeah, Shannon Moore's around. Don Harris shows up and he's like, can you get down?
And he's like, no. The punk thing would have been for him to dive.
Yeah, he should have dived on Don Harris. Take him out.
He doesn't even have the book of Dillygaff, so I don't give a fuck.
Got him. Eric Young goes for a moonsault, but Daniels just launches him off the top rope instead, which is a real cool spot. Like, he still kind of does a moonsault, but Daniels just literally flips him over.
Yeah.
Daniels hits the BME, but D'Amore distracts the referee. Then Daniels just wins with the Angel's Wings. Like, they went to a replay of the BME, so it feels like there was an edit there for something. Like, it was a weird finish in that, like, why not just beat him with the BME if you're just going to hit the Angel's Wings straight after? But I'd say they cut something out there when they went to the replay.
Release the uncut version.
Release the full Daniels-Eric Young match.
We deserve it.
Do we?
Yeah, we do.
Samoa Joe on the December 31st Impact wrestles Roderick Strong.
That's fun. It's a fun little combination.
There's a feature before this match on Joe, which is just like a 50-second him kicking ass feature. And it's like, God, he's so cool.
He's also a great him kicking ass feature guy.
Yeah, because he kicks so much ass.
The towel is so disgusting.
Yeah, and they change it to a fresh towel because he does a promo. We'll talk about that in a second. But like the towel has now turned to like such a gross color.
Brown.
It is like a brown now, and it's like, ugh, we should not be doing this.
It's gross. It's so yucky.
Moore is once again being shouted at by Don Harris, and we also have another reoccurring theme this month, which is Dave Hebner at the top of the stage taking some notes.
And like, when this first happened, I thought the bit was going to be that Dave Hebner is like judging the referee's performances, because the first time he does it is during like a time when a referee is being distracted, but then it's not that at all. So now I'm just confused.
Yeah, TNA does inform us here that TNA has hired Dave Hebner as a consultant, and I don't think it goes anywhere after that. They're just like, let's just have Dave Hebner there, I guess.
He just keeps showing up like week after week. My favorite thing was in week 1 where he's like, that's one of the Hebners.
Oh, but yeah, and the crowd starts chanting, "You screwed Brett" at him because they think he's Earl.
The greatest tweeter of all time.
I wouldn't say that personally.
Why?
I would not personally co-sign the thoughts of Earl Hebner.
Oh no, let me go search some Earl Hebner tweets.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Please read some of the content you have co-signed.
I never co-signed it.
You said he is the best tweeter of all time.
I never said I agreed with the words of one Earl Hebner.
That is a full and hearty endorsement of Earl Hebner's tweets, which you will now read.
You are a sick bitch. I pay more taxes than you make a year, you loser.
Why is he fighting with people?
I will sell you some, but cash only if you have it. I might throw in a Hebner show if you good luck.
He's selling people too many things.
On my way to Euphoria for Hermie Sadler's main event 2014, Sadler versus Jarrett. See? Nothing's bad yet.
The TNA dream match you've always wanted.
You smell like a rat.
What does a rat smell like?
Like a rat?
If you were in a 5x5...
Yeah, with a rat?
With Earl Hebner.
Easy. Also easy.
Wait, you... Okay, now we have to go back into this. You would be afraid of a spider, but not a rat.
I wouldn't enjoy the rat. But I would feel my confident in my ability to punt it in the head.
But you could punt the scorpion too!
No! It'll sting me. What's your girl's lover's name? Go fuck yourself.
That's an unusual name, but...
She is great. Would you like to try me out?
No one should tweet. No one should ever tweet. Why do we have it?
A lot of it is just him telling people to go fuck themselves. I am not aces and eights. I am just the most honest ref in the ring. That's why I am in main event.
I did appreciate that Earl Hebner had that bit for years where he would wait for the crowd to chant "You screwed Brett" at him, and then he would reveal his undershirt that said "Damn right I did."
Oh, okay. I thought that was creepier than it was. It was not. I haven't found anything negative here. Just him telling people to go fuck themselves.
Joe and Strong!
You keep talking, I'm gonna keep reading the El Hebner tweet.
Pretty good match.
Don't give BJ 2 sluts. Your mum should get a pimp and make so money for her big lips. She looks like an anteater.
Going in on these people. Good lord. It's a bit rude. Strong gets a big backbreaker in, which is cool to hit on Joe because he's humongous. But Joe wins with the Muscle Buster and the Coquina Clutch, and the Muscle Buster is the more perplexed move of the night.
Yeah. I got your forehead swinging CD's nuts, sucker. He's a lot of people seem to tell him that he makes more money, he pays more taxes than they make money. Keep talking. I will come up with good shit when I come up with it.
I'm just looking for the next Joe note. One sec. So the January 7th Impact franchise has Samoa Joe. Now, Samoa Joe has not cut many promos in TNA. He's barely said a word. He gave out to franchise once, but that's all he has spoken. As Joe initially doesn't respond, Shane is like, fine, I won't go to an interview with you. And Joe stops him, and Joe cuts his first proper promo in TNA, where he talks about how there is a thin line between bravery and stupidity, and Daniels has crossed that line. He has now replaced the old, gross, horrible towel with a fresh towel for all of Daniels' blood that he will draw at Final Resolution. Franchise then
At the El Hebner. I have the hottest chicks, hottest lips than any ref in the world. I guess I am a knockout myself for TNA knockouts. Who can be me? Number 1.
It's not even a coherent thought.
There is no structure to any of these tweets.
All the sentences are disconnected.
They're also not spelt correct in any way.
It is like a man who had 7 different thoughts during a day, wrote them all down into a single tweet as the day went on, and then just hit send at the end of the day.
I am the greatest of all times. You fans are jealous of me. None of you can be me. So get a life and move on with yours. Brian H., you too.
Wow. Calling out his son.
I know. I gotta start snipping these so I can post them.
Franchise pushes his luck and asks Joe a follow-up about Sting. He's like, ooh, now you're talking. Let me ask you about Sting. And Joe just walks away.
Joe looks mad that he brought it up.
It's like, how dare you ask me about a second thing? I gave you a promo. I actually talked to you. And you dare follow up? How dare you? Franchise. Ooh, franchise.
What?
What have you found now?
So, at Rude Girl tweeted, at Madison Rain, before you snogged the El Hebner, I actually thought you had a crush on Garrett TNA XOX.
Not me.
I assume not you.
No.
To which he replied with, you must be a lesbian, go fuck yourself. What the fuck?
Oh, because there was that story they did where Madison Rain was flirting with Earl Hebner to try and get favorable decisions in her favor.
Big night at TNA. I know Brian Hebner wishes he could be me. Not a chance. Go fuck yourself.
Seems like a real healthy father-son relationship developing here.
It has to be a bit.
I'd imagine it is. I would hope it is.
Just, you'll never be me. Go fuck yourself.
Go home episode of Impact. Samoa Joe faced Cassidy Riley.
I'm sorry, Garrett. There's too many.
Stop reading his tweets. Close the tab.
Happy birthday at Jeff Jarrett TNA. Looks like we both are kissing beautiful women on your birthdays. Go fuck yourself.
Alright, I'm going to need you to close the Earl Hebner tweet tab.
Let me find one more.
No.
Let me end it on a high note.
We've already ended on a high note. He told Jeff Jarrett to go fuck himself.
Your mama an asshole.
Just
that was not added at anyone.
Succinct. That's just for the general reader.
Sorry, your mama an assho.
Oh, that does change the context.
But it's one word. I'm gonna just tweet that one, I reckon. Alright, I'm done. I'm closing it.
Joe Cassidy Riley.
Yeah, what about it?
I would say that Joe ate Cassidy Riley up more than he ate Lethal up, but Riley got a bigger deer fall on Joe than nearly anybody in TNA history. So Daniels is on commentary. AJ chases Shannon Moore around ringside. Joe ignored Moore but dropped AJ, which is like one of those things I love. It's like Moore could run away, but fuck you, AJ.
He's like, I don't care about Moore, but I still dislike you.
AJ then hits Joe with a Pele, and Cassidy Riley gets like an actual near fall off of that. He pins him and he kicks out, which I actually quite liked. Joe then fired up, kicked the living shit out of Cassidy Riley, muscle buster, cookie Coquina Clutch for the win. Joe looked to musclebuster Cassidy Riley on a chair, but Daniels makes the save. Daniels then hit Joe with the chair as Joe bails. Setting up at the pay-per-view, Samoa Joe versus Christopher Daniels for the X Division Championship. Earlier in the show, the franchise had Daniels, and the franchise addresses the elephant in the room, the story of this match, basically, that Daniels has come back from his concussion too soon. Daniels points out that Joe has never beaten him, and Daniels said he's not afraid to shed blood for what he believes in, and Daniels parses the difference between unbeaten and unbeatable, and says Joe will be beaten tonight. So that's basically like the story of the match, that they develop as Daniels fires up and tries to win the X Division title, and every time Joe just goes after his head and Daniels falls apart.
See, this match, I liked what I remember of it, but then my appendix started exploding. So I don't remember the last half of it because of the searing pain in my stomach.
So just like Chris Daniels, you came in all fired up, but then your appendix started bursting and tearing you down.
Yeah, pretty much. I came back too soon, much like Chris Daniels.
There was a bunch of like little touches, like, you know, Joe does the thing where he does the chop to the back, the kick to the like shoulder, and hits the ropes and drops a knee, like one of those classic like little Joe sequences. Whereas here, he does chop the back, kick to the shoulder, and when he goes to drop the head, the knee on the head, Daniels completely covers up to protect his head, and it's one of those like small little touches. It's like, obviously the story of the match is Daniels might still have concussion, or still have the lingering effects of a concussion, so he's trying to avoid every and all damage to his head as possible. Daniels goes to powerbomb Joe out of the corner, but Joe reverses it into a Rana, and then falls with a lariat, because he's fucking awesome. Daniels hits the BME, but Joe kicks out. Daniels hits a slingshot elbow over the ropes to the floor, where he lands like...
right on his fucking hip.
Yeah, hip first. And I think he misses the mat as well and hits like the concrete part of the floor. It's like, oh, that sucks.
I remember relating heavily to that.
Just pain.
of my side dying.
Joe hits a boot as Daniels is coming through the ropes, and then does the rail face wash out on the floor, which busts Daniels open, and then we settle into like the actual story of this match as Joe relentlessly goes after Daniels' head. So Styles comes out to ringside. He has a towel in hand. He's watching on. He's cheering on Daniels. Daniels fires up, goes for the Angel's Wings, but crumbles. Joe then keeps hitting him in the head, muscle busters him, but Daniels squirms the ropes before Joe can lock into Coquina Clutch. Joe drops Daniels with a muscle buster on a chair. TNA does at least try to justify the use of the chair in that setting, being like, oh, the referee is intimidated by Joe. But listen, Rhino and Abyss were hitting each other with chairs earlier, so I guess it's just legal in this company.
Yeah, it's the opposite of New Japan, where the outside
is pure wrestling.
Is pretty much, yeah. In TNA, the inside is where you're allowed to use weapons.
Joe then kicks Daniels in the head a bunch and starts wailing on Daniels with knees to the head, and he does like these big wind up for them, and he's looking at AJ as he throws each and every one. As AJ picks the towel up, picks Joe's towel up, and he's like, well, should I throw it in? Should I throw it in? He's conflicted before he eventually throws the towel in on Daniels' behalf, and then Joe collects the blood of Daniels and leaves, and he's like, fuck yeah, I did it.
What gives AJ Styles the authority?
Well, we'll talk about it when we talk about AJ stuff, but there was some tag team stuff this month. They did come closer together. They were in a 6-man tag, and then they faced AMW in a tag. So they did at least set up the idea that obviously these two are long-term rivals, and even when Joe took out Daniels in the first place, AJ came out to check on Daniels. So they have at least set the seeds that there is like their long-term rivalry.
Yeah, but I want his legal precedence.
Do you want to see his manager's license?
Where is his manager's license?
To see his right to throw in a towel on Daniels' behalf?
Exactly.
And I'm sure that will be a little development you will see in February, with Daniels being like, what the hell, man?
What the hell? I had him.
Yeah.
Had him right where I wanted him.
I wasn't beat, dude. TNA does reinforce after the match, as Daniels is being checked and tended to, that he's a father of two, and AJ made the right call to protect Daniels' long-term career.
Says him.
So, like, I didn't love this as, like, a match. I think they have a much better match in April, these two. Maybe the best match of Christopher Daniels' career. But I did, like, appreciate the story, and I think they told the story they wanted to tell really well, with Joe once again being an unstoppable monster. Like, you could talk about the chair spot, the muscle buster on the chair, which I understand why they did it, because that's the spot that he gave him the concussion with in the first place, back after the Elimination X match at Genesis. But I don't think they needed that spot, just because Joe's knees to the head looked so gnarly by themselves that, like, oh, his head is in great trauma here. You didn't need the chair spot, because Joe could just be a monster.
And, like, it's, you know, it's more intimidating that a guy is just doing this with his body.
He's just fucking you up. He doesn't need a chair.
Yeah, like it's more brutal, like in a street fighting sense, where you're just like watching a man get his head kicked in.
But yeah, I did appreciate the story of this match being that, like, at the start Daniels had a fire and he could go for it, but the second Joe hit him in the head, it was fucking over. Like, Daniels was just done, and the match increasingly got away from Daniels to the point that AJ had to submit on his behalf. I thought they did that story really well, and it's one of those where, like, you would be tempted to be like, you can't kick Daniels' ass that much, you know? He's a baby face. You can't have him destroyed like that. But like, it fits the story. It's like he came back too fast. He took this match too fast. Joe is a killer, and Joe killed him. Yeah. And we will follow on from here. And I think I talked about this last month, but it's like the idea that like the X Division didn't have stories just because they're not doing 15-minute promos in the ring. It's like they don't have stories. It's like they've had this now 3-month story with Daniels and Styles, and the building relationship between Daniels and Styles. But now the tension, I imagine, will emerge from this between Daniels and Styles, because Daniels wouldn't have wanted to submit. Like, and then Joe is the monster that they're both trying to topple. That's like a really compelling story. But no, there's good wrestling there, so there can't possibly be a story.
Wow, 2023.
I know.
My God, people have never understood how stories actually work in wrestling, did they?
But like, for real though, like, it's always so reductive. Like, if it's not the WWE vision of what storytelling in wrestling is, which, as I said, is the 15-minute Raw opening promo, it's lots of talking. It's not like actual nuanced, compelling story and characterization. If you don't do it the way WWE has done it for the last 20 years, people just pretend it doesn't count. Like, people pretend like the Continental Classic was just wrestling, when you would have to be a fucking clown.
See what that one person said, where they're like, if you're gonna respond like and tell me that this tournament had all these stories, why don't you tell me what they are? Then some guy responded with like 12.
Yeah, there's Bryan Danielson's eye, there's Daniel Garcia trying to earn his one win, there's like the little BCC tension with them being both in the same block, there's Swerve trying to prove he's on the top level of the top stars, there's Eddie Kingston putting his belts on the line and coming from a
Briscoe
a
adjusting
start.
to be a singles wrestler, Jay Lethal learning how to be has been relying on outside interference to win his matches for the past year and is now failing when put in there by himself.
And it's like, no, because again, there was no stand in the ring for 15 minutes and talk to each other about what the story is. There's no story.
And it's like, even if you want like promos expanding beyond that, they had them.
Yeah, loads of them.
And they were great.
They were fucking awesome.
They were like the best talking I've seen all year.
But nope, you didn't do them in a ring for 15 minutes. It does not count. Like, that's what it comes down to.
Stupid.
That is literally what it comes down to. If it's not two people standing in a ring talking to each other for longer than 10 minutes, it does not count. It's so fucking stupid.
That's really annoying.
So, a friend of Donald Faison, AJ Styles, has some stuff going on this month.
Yeah.
Not a lot. It's a weirdly quiet month for AJ.
Well, when he's not a champion, this kind of happens.
Yeah, and I guess like the X title program is Daniels at the moment. He's not really hovering around the world title scene. He does come back into the X title program next month, so it's more like a month off. Like, he's facing Hiroshi Tanahashi at the pay-per-view.
Ah, what a gimme.
Yeah, it's like, what a month off for AJ. He's only wrestling Hiroshi Tanahashi at the pay-per-view.
Only wrestling the president.
Yeah, of the world. I salute you, Mr. President. But yeah, so like they announced that match at some point, and then they also do a little like 40-second feature that has some Tanahashi New Japan footage in it, which is the first time Tanahashi, I guess, would have appeared on US national television. Yeah. So main event of the December 31st episode is James Storm versus AJ Styles. That match leads to Larry Zbyszko making an NWA World Title match because Storm hits AJ with a beer bottle and falls with the super kick for the win. Daniels points out the glass. Storm, however, has a second bottle, which I love, and he's like, "My bottle's fine. That wasn't my bottle. Look, my bottle's right here."
Which, again, like, James Storm is such a treat as like a shitty heel, man.
And like they don't do that all the time. Like, they do just eventually he just hits guys with bottles. But I do appreciate how the first few times he did it, like we were talking about the one where he's like, someone from the crowd threw it and it wasn't me, or this one where he used the beer bottle and the ref when Daniels is like, "Look at the glass," Storm is like, "My beer bottle's right here. That wasn't mine." So like there's that thing. It's always like, it's a great weapon, but it leaves too much evidence to be credible. And Storm is like, "I've thought about that."
But like, I guess like eventually you run out of excuses.
You do, and then you just use it as a weapon.
Unfortunately, it's like cool as hell. So, like, it doesn't really matter.
It's one of those that I always insist wrestling needs to work on an emotional level, not a logical level, and the beer bottle is fucking awesome, so it works on an emotional level.
Yeah.
So Daniels, despite pointing that out, does not get the decision overturned, but Larry Z comes out and books for later that night, because this is the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day split episode. So the match on the New Year's Day episode, I guess the New Year's Night episode, the midnight episode, will be for the NWA World Tag Team titles, America's Most Wanted versus the X Division Dream Team of AJ Styles and Christopher Daniel.
I thought this was gonna own, and it didn't really own.
I really liked it.
It was just, like, good.
Yeah, because, like, it was a 30-minute special. So, like, they obviously, and like, Impact's an hour anyway. But, like, this was only a 30-minute show. So there's only so much ownage they could own, especially with a lot of Shannon Moore involved, which is way too much Shannon Moore involved this month in general. But I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was a good time. And they'll have better matches in 2006, but this was a nice little teaser. And it's like, you see Styles and Daniels coming together as a team. And Styles' fucking hot tag is so good. That dude can do anything in wrestling. He is the best wrestler. So Harris hits a catatonic on Styles, but Daniels makes the save. Harris bumps the ref with a clothesline. Styles hits Storm with the clash, but Shannon Moore runs out and drops Styles, allowing Storm to get the pin. So AMW retained the tag titles over Styles and Daniels, but there will be more to come from these two teams next year.
AJ taking 2 L's in a row.
Yeah, he's not a priority this month. He can take falls. The main event of the following week's episode, January 7th, is Austin Aries, Roderick Strong, and Alex Shelley versus AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, and Chris Sabin.
Should we talk about how we got to this?
Yeah, so there was a segment backstage in which the Ring of Honor staple Generation Next are like, "Hey Larry Z, we ain't booked on the pay-per-view. What the hell, man?"
And Larry Z's like, try winning.
Yeah, how about you try and do some shit, huh?
It's just like, you know what? It's fair.
Larry's like, you were always like, I want. Why don't you go do something about it, huh?
They're like, yeah, we'll do that then.
Then Jerry Lynn walks up and is like, you guys had a match. Would you stop moaning to Larry?
Which I'm convinced is just an excuse to like, let's get some Jerry Lynn on TV.
So that does lead us to this match in which the trio of Aries, Strong, and Shelley face Styles, Daniels, and Sabin. And it's a fucking great match for what it is, which is like a 6-minute TV match between these 6 guys. But I do appreciate, I've been giving out about trios matches a lot lately. In that I think too many of AEW's trios matches have too long a final stretch where it's like shine, heat, and then 70% of the match is just guys hitting moves, guys hitting moves, guys hitting moves, guys hitting moves. And I think that formula works really well for a 6 to 12 minute trios match and does not work as well for anything longer than like 15 because it just becomes relentlessly guys hitting moves and it becomes a little bit numbing.
You need to have some, like any match, if you're going for a long period of time, you need to have some sort of connective tissue or story being told.
Yeah, because we were talking specifically about what was it? Tanahashi, Okada, and Ishii against, what was the other trio?
Cobb, Okan, and Hanare.
That match for the Never Trios titles in New Japan, where like they built arcs of that match around isolating Ishii. Even after like the comeback segment, they continued to isolate Ishii and keep Tanahashi and Okada on the floor until you had like an awesome moment in that match when Tanahashi and Okada finally got back in and turned the tide, and ultimately that's what led to Ishii winning. And it's like there was an actual arc, an actual story, there was actual like meaningful, distinct segments of the match, and not just guy hits move, guy hits move, guy hits move, standing ovation, guy hits move, guy hits move, guy hits move, applause break. Like that, which is the way like AEW's trios matches can often be structured, and they do become a little bit exhausting. So just to see it condensed down into like the classic 6 to 8 minute trios match, it does feel a little bit refreshing that it's like in and out, it's a lot of action, it's guys like hitting their moves but not in a way that's just like relentless, and then they just go to a finish.
It certainly is refreshing. Different take on the similar thing.
This is where they officially announced that Styles and Tanahashi will face at the pay-per-view. Sabin and Shelley both also, and it's more pronounced, I think, in the pay-per-view match. Actually, Sabin doesn't get the change until the pay-per-view match, but both of them this month get their hair dyed.
Yeah, it's like, you guys should just be tag partners at this point.
Yeah, like the foreshadowing is getting stronger and stronger. It's like you are getting closer and closer to each other.
Do you think they're trying to make like that visual connection? So like they're pitching it?
Both blonde, well, Sabin is more like blonde highlights, whereas Shelley is a blonde streak. Both from Detroit, both X Division guys. Hey, put us together. Even Joe gets that like orangey streak through his hair this year.
It is the era of it. We're in 2005.
Yeah, no, we're moving into 06, Liam. That's the reason everyone's like, let's get our hair dyed. It's a new year.
Yeah, we got to get our big 06 feud. Well, when did they first team up?
They first started teaming in sometime in 06 and 01. I think it's like summer of this year is when they start teaming in 01.
So they probably have the idea at this point.
But like even like 01 is just like, let's shove these two guys together. We booked them.
Yeah, but I'm sure like they're like I would be shocked to learn that they weren't like, hey, you think we'd be a cool tag team?
Yeah, these two have run in the same circles, I'd imagine, long enough as two Michigan guys and two BCW trainees. So, like, both of them came from the same school, worked in the same scene long enough that surely it is probably a thought that has crossed their mind. I'm sure there's probably some instances of them teaming on the indies in some capacity.
Would they ever Murder City Machine Guns in TNA?
No, always Motor.
They're always Motor? Interesting.
Strong, Shelley, and Aries are a really great trio. I'm glad that TNA invented it.
Yes.
Where's Jack Evans? Get him in here.
He could be.
He would be perfect. Just add him to this act. During this match, Daniels gets dropped, holded into the rail, and then starts selling his concussion, which is a nice touch. Aries is so good, man. Like, it's upsetting.
Do you want to talk about what we've been talking about today?
Yeah, about how like people don't realize Austin Aries is good because he's a bad person.
Yeah.
Just like, get over yourselves. He's a good wrestler.
We are going to be so desperate for his run when we cover 2012.
Aries goes to hit Daniels with a chair, but AJ flies out of nowhere with a dropkick, which kind of rocked. Sabin gets isolated and hit with a Gustbuster and a slice spread for the win. So the not Generation Next backed up their talk as they beat 3 former X Division champions.
It's a big win for them.
It is a big win. So the Go Home Impact to January 14th. Mike Today's in the ring, and he's awarding Mr. TNA to AJ Styles.
I'm shocked.
Winning it for the 3rd year in a row. AJ says that Tanahashi is going to be the first to find out how phenomenal AJ will be in 2006. It turns out that's Shannon Moore, who throws powder in his eyes and steals his award.
Yeah, so Shannon Moore is the canonical Mr. TNA.
Congratulations to Mr. TNA, the Prince of Punk Shannon Moore.
Disgusting.
So there's then a little show running thing where, as mentioned, during the Joe and Cassidy Riley match, AJ chases Moore around ringside trying to get his trophy back, and even during a Jackie Gator pre-tape, they brawl as well, trying to get his trophy back.
They are kind of trying.
There is a story there, which is funny because it builds to not AJ Styles versus Shannon Moore, it's AJ Styles versus Hiroshi Tanahashi at Final Resolution.
Which is fun. Like, it's what a fun little match.
Yeah, Tanahashi comes out to, like, generic Japanese song rather than High Energy, which is funny because the TV taping after this, he does an explosion match, which is very funny that Tanahashi's only working explosion for when you have him on TV. It's so weird, that era, where it's like, you know, if Tanahashi's in TNA now, he's doing a big thing on TV. You know, if Ospreay's in TNA, he's doing a Josh Alexander match on TV, you know?
Well, because the people in charge here get it.
They understand the appeal of having Hiroshi Tanahashi there. Whereas back then, it's just like, let's put him against Roderick Strong and Explosion. Or when reigning IWGP champion Shinsuke Nakamura is there in 2008, Explosion match against Elix Skipper. It's like, what are you doing? But when he was on Explosion, when Tanahashi was on Explosion, he had High Energy there. So I'm like, what happened to the pay-per-view? Where'd High Energy go?
They didn't send the MP3.
Not in time, anyway. They're like, we don't want this generic. Even Tana probably came out to the generic song. Is like, what the fuck is this shit? Tana is 29 here, and he is the reigning U30 champion, which is a belt only people under the age of 30 can hold. So Tana's running up against that age limit.
One of us on this show could hold it.
Fuck you. Rude. What do you think of a belt like that?
I think it's a dumb name, and it's inherently got like a cap on it. Although this did main event the Tokyo Dome. I think I would like a title like that which isn't like strictly adhered to, like in its actual rules, but is spiritually the same thing.
Something that is a mid-card belt for the young'un, but is not expressly a mid-card belt for the
that
young'uns.
is very clearly that, but isn't like explicitly said that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never had a problem with it, even though I didn't particularly like love it.
It didn't last very long, did it?
Like I think it was like Nakamura and him basically.
Yeah. For our cool two wrestlers under the age of 30.
And then it was unified or just dropped.
I guess part of it also does something you generally don't want to do in wrestling, and that's draw attention to people's ages. Like, you don't really want people realizing Damian Priest is in his early 40s, you know? That's a thing you don't really want. So you can avoid that by having anything that's even linked remotely to age.
But of course, this was settled in the G2.
Okay, sure.
the G2, which is so funny, which Tana did win. And then they did the G2 in 2005, which Tanahashi won.
He is the ace.
He won the G2 twice.
He's the G2, too.
He's the G2 time winner.
Tana is very young here, so that means he is very good at moving.
Yes, he has his speed and his ability.
Which seems like a hot take, which is like the Tanahashi seemed like one of those guys that was just timeless. One of those guys that the time would never catch, and then this year time caught him. And then it's like, then go watch like young Tana, where he has all that explosion and all that energy, and he looks awesome. It's like, oh.
Well, it's like, he has high energy.
Yeah, you only had like 15 years of being the best wrestler of all time. How dare you?
Yeah, go on, please.
You are not eternal? God damn it.
Yeah, they should be eternal.
Like, this match it's nothing special. It's not like the full Hiroshi, Tanahashi, AJ Styles match you would like. It's like a 3.25 star match. But it's pretty enjoyable for what it is, I think. You would have liked them to go all out. I think it's only 11 minutes and then the finish ends around like Shannon Moore bullshit. So it's not like the full blow away match you would hope.
Wasn't a lot of opportunity
Yeah,
there.
they didn't have the framework, I suppose, for like a full like knockout, drag out match between these two that you eventually got in like 2015. But it's pretty good for what it is. It's a fun little historical note, and it's fun to see Tanahashi and TNA during this era.
And it's like, yeah, and it's fun to see that and then look on and where they would eventually, be competing for the IWGP World Heavyweight title a ton. Well, not the World Heavyweight title, that's a different belt.
Moore runs out and accidentally strikes Tana with the Mr. TNA plaque. Styles drops Moore with the Pele and then beats Tana with the Styles Clash. Tana shows respect to AJ after the match and hands him back his plaque, but then Moore just steals it anyway.
I think, didn't they also do the thing where it's like AJ didn't see the striking with the plaque or whatever?
Yeah, I think AJ had the thing where he just saw Tana was down and hit him with the Styles Clash from one.
Yeah. So like they kept like AJ didn't take advantage of it just to win or anything.
Yeah, he just ran off more. So then the other thing is the Exhibition Trios match. We missed the Chris Sabin against the Biss TV match, which I thought was good fun. Those two have good chemistry. Wasn't much happening. Dave Hebner was there again. Abyss goes to swing Sabin into the steps and just skims it at first, and then he's like, "No, I'm gonna fucking kill you."
I wonder what David Hebner's notes on that was.
I would always love to see that. It's like, good tornado DDT from Chris Sabin.
3 3/4 stars.
Dave has a tremendous burn in the Observer about this match.
Hit it.
Dave Hebner was watching again, and this time it was noted he was wearing a TNA Impact t-shirt. I wonder if Annie came up missing at the end of the night. Fucking got him. So yeah, we already talked about the setup for the other match. So the Gen Next trio are complaining about opportunities. They did win their TV match, and then they ultimately got a pay-per-view match against Sabin, Sanjay, and Matt Bentley. And it was worse than the TV match, but it was fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly as strong of a crew.
Yeah, Dawn is once again ogling over Tracy Brooks, because she has her schoolgirl look, which is probably her more iconic look.
No, you say the exact quote.
Dawn is loving Tracy's little schoolgirl look.
Ugh, shiver just went down my spine.
Great. They are very horny for Tracy Brooks at the moment. This is where Shelley and Sabin both had the blonde looks, so it's like just team.
So close shit so far.
Strong cuts off Bentley's super kick with a sick kick, allowing Shelley the chance to roll up Bentley for the win. I appreciated Bentley he saw Strong coming with it. I'm still gonna go for a super kick. I can get it.
It was fun. It was a good sick kick.
Backstage at the pay-per-view, Matt Bentley and Alex Shelley got into an argument over the finish of their opening 6-man tag match. Bentley got so upset that he challenged Shelley to a fight. Austin Aries, the calmest man in the room at all times, was in the middle of trying to calm things down. Alex had an idea for a finish. Shane didn't like it because it would leave egg on his face, but Alex was adamant. Shane overreacted.
Thanks, Aries.
It's an opening 6-man tag. Come on, Matt Bentley, calm yourself down.
And also, Shelley, it's an opening 6-man tag. Maybe be willing to move on the finish.
Yeah, maybe just be willing to hit Matt Bentley with 2 more moves before you win, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe he was mad about the idea that, like, why would I still go for my super kick while I see this guy coming?
Because you think you're that good.
But yes, thank you, Austin Aries, calm man. Rational man, some might say.
The most rational man in the business. That's what Garrett's always said.
That brings us to the tag team division, in which the NWA World Tag Team title program is America's Most Wanted versus Team 3D, after Team 3D beat AMW in a tables match at Turning Point. Like, a lot of this build is tied into the Jarrett stuff, but Team 3D on the 17th have a match against the Diamonds in the Rough.
So we're going to talk about my Diamonds in the Rough realization.
Oh, what was your realization?
That Simon Diamond is QT Marshall. And that Diamonds in the Rough Oven Factory.
When you mentioned that, you first posited this on the watch along, which you can listen to at tnachat.com, and I was like, oh my god. Oh my god.
It's a 1-to-1.
It's so upsetting how like close that is. It's like, oh my god.
Everyone needs a QT Marshall on their roster, and Simon Diamond just happens to be the TNA QT Marshall. It's insane. They look the same.
They do. They have the same energy. They have the same like physique. They have the same build. They have the just same face.
Same hair.
Yeah. They're the same person.
They have the same like tracksuit.
QT's probably a better worker.
Yes, definitely.
But other than that,
it's too much.
So yeah, this match, it was fine. They show some media coverage from the base brawl that just happened at Turning Point. The crowd chants "You screwed Brett" at Dave Hebner, who this is where he first shows up, and I really enjoy that. He's not Earl, you fools.
All Hebners are the same.
Diamond tries to interfere, but Skipper accidentally nailed him. Doomsday device to Skipper, 3D to David Young gives them the win. The Dudleys have informed All Japan that they are committing to TNA, won't be able to work any more dates in Japan. They cancelled their January bookings. They had just been given the win in the Real World Tag League, so All Japan aren't entirely pleased.
Yeah. I wouldn't be if I put in these
Yeah,
guys.
you won the tournament, and they'd never work All Japan again, by the way. I checked that. It's like, nope, they won that tournament, then they never worked All Japan again.
Who did they come back for when they cut the Bullet Club promo?
Wrestle One.
Oh, that was the Wrestle One TNA
That was the
show.
Band for Glory, yeah.
That's the funniest shit. I remember being in the WooTube, like, on the show after they did that, and everyone just be like, fucking Dudley's better not be here.
There was another story that they were willing to work some January dates, but obviously stuff about TNA tapings got in the way, and All Japan were just like, fuck it, don't care. Devon is said to be working out harder than ever to trying to get the best shape just so he can show up WWE management. There are whispers in TNA that it'd be nice if Bully had the same attitude, which is a bit mean, toward getting in shape.
Don't worry, they're going to turn it into a whole bit.
Yeah, he'll be eating Twinkies and he'll lose some weight, and then he will actually lose some weight and become a great world champion.
Yeah, exactly.
Bully's stiffness in the ring has been an issue with some opponents so far. They become the Road Warriors. They don't sell for anyone. Some like that he's being stiff with America's Most Wanted, who continue to carry a rep as being coddled by management and having egos bigger than their resume justifies. Their resume fucking fully justifies any ego they have, you pieces of shit.
Also, how's this the first time we're hearing of this?
Yeah, there's like this, like we've talked about it before, I think, about how like sometimes when AMW are losing, they have like a real boo-boo face.
Yeah, and like we had told like that they wanted more money, but like that never felt like undeserved.
I think we talked about this, I think in like 04, where we were talking about how like there was this perception that it wasn't just AMW, we talked about it with AJ as well, that like guys like AJ and AMW were unfairly management favorites compared to some others, and I'm like,
and it's like, it's not unfairly, they deliver in everything they give.
Yeah, they're management favorites because they're the best wrestlers in the company, not because of anything they've been unfairly given.
I'm sorry, Simon Diamond.
And that's the thing, yeah, it's all probably like fucking BG. You know, BG being like, why do AMW get all the tag team matches and we never get any of the tag team matches? Maybe because AMW's tag team matches are good.
And they rock. Yeah, let's blame BG.
It's always BG's fault.
Anyway, James Storm has the bad rep. Fuck off. Bully's chops are considered among the hardest in pro wrestling. He's just the jerk about it, says one wrestler. And he's always been that way. That's what you get with him.
Yep. The end of the show angle there is when the 3D came out to face off against Planet Jarrett as well.
In the JPEG Mafia.
The JPEG Mafia! Chris Harris faced Christian in the main event of the December 24th show, which we've already talked about. 3D Funeral was shown as one of the impactful moments of 2005 on the December 31st show.
Awesome.
On the New Year's special, 3D made the save. It's same stuff. It's all the same stuff.
And then, of course, the return of Lovett and Quartermain.
Buck has hair!
It's insane.
He's not bald!
It shouldn't... It's like going back and watching BJ Whitmer, and you're like, why does this man have a fucking ponytail?
Yeah, I was like, my god, they're not identical bald men anymore. So this is the January 7th episode, which opened with Team 3D against Lex Lovett and Buck Quartermain. And
I am disowning them now, by the way.
Oh, you only liked them when they were bald?
Yes.
And when they were briefly, but not at all, managed by Johnny Fairplay?
Yes.
Which they shot that pay-per-view segment once, where Johnny Fairplay's like, hey, you need a manager? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then he never managed them.
That was the peak of their run.
Classic Johnny Fairplay blindside right there. Team 3D pin bit with the 3D. Then Bully gets on the mic and runs down all the titles they've won. They've run 18 title reigns across WCW and ECW and the WWE. That's a company too. But at Final Resolution, they hope to add the NWA World Tag Team titles for the first time. And then Bully tells a tremendous lie, which is he'd give up all 18 reigns just to win the NWA World Tag Team titles once.
Doesn't he say that about multiple? Like, didn't he do that for the IWGP
I'm sure he did. It's a great lie. Like, it's an obvious lie. It's something you don't mean that. But I appreciate your willingness to say it.
Yeah.
3D also appear at the end of that show to clear everybody out for the Sting tribute. And then 3D also appear in the main event of the Go Home show. So there's a lot of they're kind of just intertwined.
They're just doing run-ins.
Yeah, they're running in for schmozzes and saves. And that's the build to the NWA World Tag Team title match at Final Resolution, which is America's Most Wanted defending against Team 3D.
It's alright.
So the finish of this match. Let's start with the end.
Mm-hmm.
So Gale gets a handful of powder and gives it to Chris Harris.
Yeah, cocaine.
Yeah, but Bully knocks the powder simultaneously into Chris Harris's face and referee Rudy Charles.
Fine.
They hit the 3D on Wildcat Chris Harris. They pin him. The referee counts 1, he counts 2, he counts 3, and the new NWA World Tag Team Champions.
Yeah, exactly.
Our Team
Music
3D.
hits?
No, music doesn't hit.
Everyone...
It's very important to note.
Wait a minute.
Music does not hit.
Music doesn't hit? But music always hits.
Yeah, regardless. It's not like the referee tees up the music. The music always hits. But for some reason, the music never plays. This is the day the music died. Rudy is still blinded. Team Canada runs out. They lay out Team 3D and place Harris on top of Bully. Rudy finally clears the powder out of his eyes, and despite counting the 3 for 3D pinning AMW, he awards the match to AMW because he sees Harris on top of Bully. It is so stupid.
It isn't like old-time LOL TNA finish.
It is one of those that, like, there's a version of this you can do where they don't, like, he gets the visual pin on Harris, somebody flips it, and then they get screwed that way. Perfectly fine. Like, totally fair. The referee counted 3. Team 3D won the match.
Where's Larry Zbyszko?
Where is Larry Zbyszko? Jackie Gaeta needs to reveal that they're in conspiracy cahoots right now.
Well, that's the thing. Maybe Larry Zbyszko is still on the side of Planet.
Well, he is. That's the story, though. But they just didn't reveal it.
That's why he didn't. He should have come out and like affirmed the decision.
It's like, Rudy, what's your final decision? My final decision is America's Most Wanted. And it's like, listen, referee's decision. I can't do anything.
That would have been a good bit.
But yeah, it's very dumb. It's really, really dumb. You cannot actually count the finish. You can't have the referee actually count the finish.
It's so funny.
It's
real. But it's so funny bad that I actually like it, and I don't.
It is. It's one of those things where, like, at the time, if this happened, you would be like, "This is so dumb. This is so stupid."
AEW did this on Dynamite. I would shoot a motherfucker.
Whereas now that we're 18 years in the past, you can it is the very right kind of stupid. It's incredibly dumb. Though I will say, before this match, there was an important moment in TNA history, Liam.
Adrenaline rush, adrenaline rush.
There was a video package for Team 3D versus AMW set to the debut appearance of Adrenaline Rush, which will famously become the Impact outro song. It will become the Impact intro song for one episode, but it will become the Impact outro song, which is like a little music video that shows the happenings that happen on Impact that week, set to Adrenaline Rush every week. So it becomes a very important part of TNA history. But yeah, Adrenaline Rush, this is where we first hear it, for a Team 3D versus AMW video package.
Adrenaline Rush, yeah. Oh my god, are we gonna have to make that our outro song now?
Nah, it's too much effort.
Oh god, you can't use the 17 seconds of Adrenaline Rush.
Fine. God, you always love making me do work.
Yeah! Once you cut it the first time, all you'll have to do is copy paste it forever.
Yeah, but then I have to cut it once, and I have to adjust the audio levels, and I have to fade it out properly, and maybe fade it in a little bit. That's like 3 minutes of work.
Yeah, but then we get to have Adrenaline Rush.
Adrenaline rush now.
Yeah, he's in.
We end the show, as we always do, with the 4 Live Crew family drama.
Adrenaline Rush, Adrenaline Rush.
December 17th Impact, franchise has Truth and Conan. If you remember at Turning Point, Conan's like, fuck all this shit, I'm going to beat the shit out of Kip James and BG James with a chair. He was finally fed up of all their bullshit and their lies and their equivocating and their nonsense. And he is like, I will finally brain them. I'm done with this shit.
Exactly. And then briefly like, oh no, they're not gonna do it.
So franchise is like, why did you kill Kip? And Conan completely consistently is like, I've always hated him. I have never trusted him, which is fair. He has always hated him.
He's not wrong. He is a man of conviction.
There is not a moment in this entire process, which we've been going through for like 9 months now, in which Conan has not been like, I fucking hate Kip James.
Yeah. There was like 1 week maybe where he's like, I'll try to be on the same side.
And he's like, no, I'm hitting him with a chair. After Conan talks for like a minute, Truth is still like, I don't get it, man. Why'd you do it? And then
he's so broken up about
Truth
it.
is like, I'm also done with this shit because I'm tired of it.
Which is like, again, fair for Truth. And Truth just tries to move on and no one lets him.
Yeah, he is so done with this. He beats Kenny King in a squash match, and Bullet Bob tries to be like, can you put this together? And like, can you put the 4LK back together? Can you try and get us all back on the same page? And then Truth is like,
and then Truth dances on him. Starts stunting on him.
He does. He starts dancing like, I'm done with this. And Bullet Bob sadly walks down the ramp.
I actually thought like Bob was pretty great in everything he did.
He's a good wrestler.
In that he's not wrestling. But
But like he's just good at all of this. You know, all the little nuances that he needs to do for this program, he's really good at.
Yeah, he's great.
So December 31st Impact, Bullet Bob's talking to Conan.
I love it. I love this. I think it's so good.
So Conan's like, I still hate Kip. I hate him. And Bob's like, I know you hate him, but we can fix this. And then it's like, when you got stuck when the airplanes were grounded at Christmas, who was there for you? And he's like, oh, you were. It's like, when you got that concussion, who was there for you? It's like, all right, you were. And then Conan says he'll shake their hands and he'll ask for an apology.
Bullet Bob was so good in this segment that I believed that that Conan was going to just say, yeah, and then they were going to keep going with
You
this.
thought we were just going to get another 3 months of Tree Life Crew.
I want a full life crew. 100%.
So then we cut later in that show backstage as Conan, Apollo, and the debuting Homicide are attacking Bullet Bob backstage.
I was so... Bullet Bob did such a good job in that segment that my first instinct was, no, Bullet Bob! Then I was like, Homicide!
So while they're beating the shit out of him, he introduces Homicide, and he's like, whoa, so, cool your jets. We want to hurt this old man. We don't want to actually kill him.
And then he's like, BG, Kip, don't send an old man to do your dirty work.
So we have the formation of the Latin American Exchange, which we formally get the name of on the January 7th Impact, as Apollo and Homicide face the Naturals. Conan shouts at BG for driving a wedge between them and officially dubs their group LAX, the Latin American Exchange.
LAX... the greatest stable in TNA history?
So there's like,
it's them or Team Canada.
Yeah, and like I like the Main Event Mafia. I think they're a cool act.
They're like a top 5.
Sax, of course.
Yeah, well, yes. That's a personal fave, you know.
Yeah.
The Beatdown Clan.
But Beatdown, which is a cool stable in theory, but in, like the actual practice of it being on television wasn't very good.
The BBC.
The which?
the
DCC, yeah. Kingston, Bram, and James Storm.
The Decay.
Decay is a cool stable.
Yeah. But to me, it's LAX.
Yeah, they probably are. Because the LAX are both, when you get to the Homicide and Hernandez incarnation, we're currently still on Apollo, unfortunately. But when you get Hernandez in there, they're both cool and great wrestlers.
And then later on, you get the Proud and Powerful version.
Which is
also cool and great wrestlers.
A very, 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 very rare instance of reviving a stable and it's as good as it always was. Especially reviving it with new people, which never works. It never, ever works. And it worked in that instance.
When has there ever been another case of that working?
I don't think there is one. Like, even when you think about big ones, like every revival of the NWO was worse than the last one.
Every DX one was shiter than the last
like the
one.
Main Event Mafia reunion wasn't great. You had like the New Rockers, stuff like that, which all sucked. Like it never works to revive an old act with new people. And it did here. And part of it is like Conan was the connective tissue. So that helped.
I think, but like most of those other things had connective tissue too.
That's true. And like the fun touch that then they brought back Homicide and Hernandez for a real great feud in 2018.
I need to go rewatch
That's honestly,
that.
I should do one of the complete histories on that. That's probably worth doing one of those on.
Please do that, so then I have a reason to watch it.
But yeah, here they actually don't win. They immediately attack the Naturals, slapjack, immediate DQ. BG and Kip try to make the save, but LAX destroy them too before Kip gets a chair and runs them off. So we have LAX. It is currently Apollo and Homicide.
I fucking love LAX so much.
51-58, nothing to mess with.
And also, I think LAX's theme is my favorite TNA
Yeah,
theme.
they don't have the theme yet. They have the a just weird Latin song.
Yeah.
But January 14th Impact, franchise has BG and Kip. You love this interview, so you can take this one.
I think that this is the best BG James has ever been, possibly ever. Like, it is the best he has ever been in TNA, but it may also just be the best he has ever been ever, because he isn't doing shtick. He is doing what arguably he probably should have done, like if he was born in a better time for him, was he was just doing like a territory fired up babyface promo about how the heels took out a member of his family. And it was honest and it was true and it's great.
Because BG is one of those guys who is undeniably charismatic. He is a guy who can talk. But the problem is, you identified the problem, like it's always shtick, it's always bits, it's never serious. He's never doing pro wrestling. He's always just doing catchphrases and he's doing comedy bits, and he's never doing a thing that could actually take his skill set, which is he's a good, confident promo, and use it to actually sell some pro wrestling, as opposed to just constantly doing bullshit. Whereas, as you said, this interview where he's mad at Conan, and he wonders how long Conan has like hidden these feelings about him and his family, and then he just shouts multiple times, "That was my daddy." Like, he's like, "That was my daddy, and you did that, and I'm coming for you." And it's like, it's, as you said, straightforward. It's a simple, straight to camera promo. Nothing like it's fancy, no bells and whistles, no catchphrases. It is just him doing wrestling, and it is very refreshing because he can talk, and he's talking good for once.
And of course, he immediately ruins it at the pay-per-view by going back to his shtick.
Yeah.
When he should have grabbed that mic and said, "Fuck this match, fuck us wrestling the goddamn diamonds in the rough. We're gonna beat their ass, and then we're coming for you, Conan."
Yeah, so yeah, the James Gang face the Diamonds in the Rough at the pay-per-view. This is BG and Kip's first match in TNA together. They have a generic theme song themselves. BG hit their catchphrase, as he said, and Kip wins with the Missouri boat ride. There was also a feature on 4LK Family Drama that you also loved before this match.
And then it was immediately like shut down.
Yeah, because they're like, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages," and it's like, all right, I get what this is.
And like honestly, a feature on the 4OK Family Drama works because if you cut out all the dumb bullshit that's been involved and condense it into 30 seconds, it probably looks like a good
if you turn
view.
the 9 months into 30 seconds, it seems tolerable.
Yeah. Also, Brett Armstrong legitimately having knee surgery.
Oh, Bob. Bob.
But sorry, Bob, not Brad. But yeah,
that is great because like they jumped him backstage and they tied in the fact that he was getting knee surgery and like they rolled footage of him like walking out of the surgery and stuff. It's like, oh, I love pro wrestling,
and he's still wrestling.
He was for years.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yes, at this.
Oh yeah, there's that story. I don't even remember where I put it in the notes where it's like a few weeks after that knee surgery, he was wrestling. It's like, God damn it, Bob.
He was told not to wrestle until March, but was back wrestling on the 29th.
Bob.
Which Dave clarifies with, he was not moving well.
Well, he's a 60-odd-year-old man who just had knee surgery, Dave. As we close out this little 3LK family drama spot with the January 7th Impact, there is a Ron Killings versus Bobby Roode match.
Also, like, your friend, Bob Armstrong, was murdered. And you're like, time to have a wacky comedy thing with Bobby Roode.
He's over it. He's like, that's your problem. I'm done with all this. So yeah, this is a weird thing. So Truth rolled him up and beat him immediately. Roode was like, no, it can't go down like that. Demanded a rematch. Truth obliged. The crowd were chanting 1, 2, 3, presumably foreshadowing Shawn Waltman showing up at the pay-per-view. Then Roode tried to use a hockey stick. They ring the bell, the match starts. Roode tries to use a hockey stick. Truth rolls him up and beats him again. Just immediately.
And DeBoer's like, only a coward would take this victory.
You beat him twice immediately. They do restart the match. I don't think Truth even really accepts it the third time. They just restart the match. Truth was lining up an axe kick, but DeMore connected with Truth was lining up an axe kick on DeMore, but Roode connected with a Northern Lariat for the win, which sets up a pay-per-view rematch as it does. Beating him twice in like 10 seconds was not conclusive enough, so Bobby Roode faces Ron Killings on the pay-per-view again. Earlier in the show, franchise has Truth. Conan is mad because Truth isn't calling him back. Truth is just happy to be free from all this 4LK drama, but Conan's like, no, you can't get out, man.
Blood in, blood out.
Truth has no problem with Conan, but can't trust Conan after what Conan did to Bullet Bob. Conan offers Truth the assistance of LAX and tells Truth to think about it.
Ooh. Presumably the American in the Latin American exchange.
Yeah. Truth has What's Up written across his ass, but he does not yet have What's Up as his theme song. I presume it's just a thought gestating in his head. He still has the 3LK theme song. He's the one that kept that.
As he should.
Conan comes out and briefly distracts Truth, allowing Rude to hit a Northern Lariat for the win. BG tries to get to Conan, but Homicide attacks him. Ron doesn't help and just leaves. Kip makes the save, nailing Homicide with a chair as Conan bails.
I reckon, like, Homicide and BG would have a real great plunder brawl.
Yeah, there would be a lot of blood.
Yeah.
It might be a little too, as like 1998 WWF Hardcore match, though.
Yeah, I was like, transfer them back into like the 1980s and then do that match.
You would need it to be more of a Homicide match than a BG match.
Yeah, or like BG like inheriting his territory genes for one night only.
So you may notice if you were watching the segment, Apollo didn't come out with Conan and Homicide.
Because they decided to get good.
And Apollo may not be welcome back for a while after missing his scheduled pay-per-view pre-show match. The TNA management wants to be consistent about how they handle those shows, and since Jeff Hardy and Shawn Waltman were suspended, Apollo likely will be. Apollo was brought in at the recommendation of Dutch Mantel, who knew him from his days booking Puerto Rico. Apollo, though, isn't considered a strong performer with much upside since he can't cut promos and isn't considered a strong worker.
Well, yeah, that'll
He's
do
popular among some in the locker room for other reasons, though.
I wonder what that guy could be popular with the locker room.
No way of knowing. So yeah, Apollo's done. This is
that incredibly jacked
Is
individual.
this the end of Apollo? I didn't check that. You might have to do a retrospective for Apollo, Liam.
Oh, Garrett.
Yeah.
Allow me to go to the Apollo Wikipedia.
And remember all of the Apollo matches? Yeah, this is it. He does one house show match in Puerto Rico, pal. Time to talk about the life and career of Apollo.
El Leon.
Oh yeah, the mask gimmick. I've totally forgot about that.
Garrett.
Yes, sir.
Garrett.
41 matches in TNA history.
41 matches. In July of 2002, we saw the beginning
Right.
of Apollo and TNA.
Well, he was on the very first show, but sure.
Would you shut
He
up?
was in the gauntlet on the first. He is a TNA original.
Yeah, I'm saying 2002.
You said July. It's June.
Fucking hell. Wikipedia's wrong then. Do you remember Garrett,
No.
Apollo versus Jeff Jarrett
No.
with Ricky Steamboat as special guest
I
referee?
don't. I honestly don't.
I have no memory of that either. Garrett, do you remember El Leon attacking Jarrett and facing him in a street fight?
I do kind of remember that one.
Before unmasking and forming a team with D'Lo
They were
Brown.
tag champs. They did that thing where they switched the belts 2 weeks in a row by DQ. I forgot about that. Oh.
When they defeated Kid Cash and Dallas. Do you remember the nightstick on a pole match?
Oh, when it fell down a bunch.
Yes.
That was fun.
Do you remember when Apollo made his return to TNA under the DOA's open door policy, defeating Sonny Siaki
Whoa.
before forming their amazing tag team?
The most notable match of which is the death of Chris Candido.
Well,
Ew.
yes. But they were also defeated by Simon Diamond and Triton at Slammiversary.
That was a Slammiversary match. It was a pre-show, but still.
Garrett, do you remember when Apollo helped Conan and Homicide beat up Bob
That was
Armstrong?
a good segment. Homicide was there. It was cool. He threw a sick side kick,
He did throw a sick side.
and no one can take that away from him.
But the problem with Apollo is, unlike a Sonny Siaki, you didn't really see it ever with him. It's like with Siaki, you at least saw moments, but there was nothing. There's nothing.
I've never watched Apollo in Puerto Rico, and I would love to watch it just to see, like, how. You know?
Yeah.
This bland guy who's no good is a huge star there. And I just want to see, is it just something that doesn't translate to the US? Is there something about him in Puerto Rico that feels, like, transformative and different?
Is he like a great like promo in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, that might be it. He just can't, like, but he doesn't have physical charisma either, though. Like, he's so boring.
We should watch some modern day Apollo.
Maybe not modern day, but I might try and watch some Apollo in his prime just to be like, what's the deal here? You know?
Garrett, do you remember in the future on December 21st, 2007, when he signed a contract with the World Wrestling Entertainment?
No.
And then when he was released 4 months later?
He hasn't wrestled since June this year.
At least, I'm surprised he wrestled
He
this
only had
year.
2 matches this year, so he seems to be like a special attraction here and there.
He also did some MMA.
He hasn't been particularly active since basically COVID hit, it seems. Even then, 2019, he wasn't too busy either. Unless he's working locals that just aren't getting picked up by Cage Match.
In 2007, he was arrested for missing child support payments.
Cool.
Oh, no.
What?
And that's where we're going to end talking about him.
Oh, good. Cool. That's it. That's the end of the podcast. Apollo's gone. We'll never mention his name again.
His son wrestles now.
I don't even want to know.
I mean, I'll tell you after.
That is the end of our Final Resolution 2006 episode.
What a positive note to end it on.
An okay month. Not a particularly special month, but it was an okay month.
Yeah, like not a bad month, but not one that I would be excited to revisit anytime soon.
The classic goes down easy, but not particularly memorable.
Yeah. 2006, though, we're heading into, Garrett. What are your hopes and expectations for TNA in the year 2006?
I think they're going to sign Kurt Angle.
I think that's fucking ridiculous.
They're going to go for a big swing. They're going to sign Kurt Angle.
I think they're going to sign CM Punk.
Oh, you will get a Punk match graphic in the next couple of weeks.
My God.
You look forward to that.
We're still in the era of TNA, which I know nothing about.
Yeah.
Even when, like, Kurt's there, I don't know, like, I wasn't watching that and, like, really knowing about Kurt being there or anything until, like, 2009.
Anything could happen here.
Anything could happen. I mean, I've seen the Kurt debut, but that's about it.
That's not until September. Well, he doesn't show up until October.
Well, there we go. Exciting stuff. We'll be back soon with drafting and with awards and with, I assume, another month of TNA at some point. I don't think they closed up in the first month of January.
No, we will be talking about Against All Odds 2006.
And then we'll also be talking about New Japan Reign Takers on the Patreon, Garrett.
We have a little bit of a catch up to do, but we'll catch up.
That one we look forward to catching up to, so it's fine. Lucha Underground. I think that's the only series we're doing
That
at
is
the
everything
moment.
that will be coming your way in the next few weeks. And you can follow us on Twitter at TNA.
YouTube channel.
Well, I've included that, sure. You can follow us on Twitter.
Give us money.
At Patreon.
Patreon. Send it to me directly on my PayPal.
Hey, wait a minute. Cut me out.
Yeah, any of the money that you would have given to the Patreon, give it to me, and I'll download the files. I'll send them to you. If you want them to go directly to me.
God damn it. You're like Earl Hebner. You have one episode we're talking about Dave Hebner and you want to sell our podcast at the back of a car.
You know what I say? I say go fuck yourself.
You can follow us on Twitter at TNA3Pod. Follow me on Twitter at Great the Car Kidney. Follow Liam on Twitter at The Clean Muda. You can subscribe to us on YouTube at You've Got to Be Kidding Me, or follow us on TikTok at TNA History. Thanks for listening, and bye-bye.
It's 2:30 a.m. Goodbye. Do the damn thing.